Chapter 650. Causeless Realm. As Guwen completed the formation of 49 Tao extreme patterns, his consciousness awoke from the state of enlightenment, and he could feel an earth-shattering transformation within himself. He had transformed into a Tao extreme Daoyuo Immortal. Within, the barrier was filled with the intense light of the great Tao, and outside, the dark celestial vault gleamed with purple-red iridescence, both bewitching and terrifying. Guwen could sense that the number of cultivators alarmed by this exceeded 100,000, and it was still rising. Nearby, there were also a few Tao mountains where the presence of cultivators emerged, but compared to the endless Tao mountain, these figures were far less numerous than the number of Tao mountains. After attaining the Tao extreme Daoyuo Immortal, Guwen's divine sense also underwent a qualitative change. He could feel the end of the endless Tao mountain. At this moment, new Tao mountains were still forming on the fringes, continuously expanding this world. The distant end he could see was beyond the reach of even Miaozhen Daoyuo Immortal, and with the ongoing birth of Tao mountains, the name Endless Tao Mountain was truly deserving. Before his breakthrough, the speculation was correct. There indeed existed several Tao extreme Daoyuo Immortals in the Endless Tao Mountain. Their Tao Mountain stood as the tallest among them, while the Tao Mountain beneath Guwen's feet was like a small hill before Mt Tai in comparison, and the Tao intent contained in those massive Tao Mountains was majestic. Even the most mediocre mortal spirit could ascend to immortality while residing on such Tao Mountains. Furthermore, Guwen also felt various heavenly court destinies here, similar to the destinies of the celestial spirit god and the 72 immortals of the Golden Cave, even possessing the destiny of a Tao extreme Daoyuo Immortal. Guwen had a sense of engaging with a high-level map, becoming even more interested in the endless Tao Mountain. The breakthrough was not yet over. His cultivation level continued to rise, and the anomaly brought to the endless Tao Mountain began to wane. The elusive Tao rules writhed like a startled swarm of dragons, and the terrifying might of the Tao caused the supposedly unshakable Tao Mountains to tremble. Guwen summoned his attribute panel to examine. During the breakthrough process, the lifespan barrier consumed 3 trillion years of lifespan, which was not a small number. Guwen continued to invest his lifespan into his cultivation level. Any breakthrough was worth it. Soon, he once again seized the opportunity for a breakthrough. Consuming 800 million years of lifespan, he advanced to the mid-stage of the Tao extreme Daoyuo Immortal realm. The Tao rules in the world once again raged violently, intertwining heavenly thunders that could destroy the great thousand world, shifting colors, magnificent and mysterious. This beauty cannot mask their dangerous aura. From the early to mid-stage of a Tao extreme Daoyuo Immortal, Guwen didn't need to immerse himself in inheritance. He began to observe the endless Tao Mountain. Attaining Tao extreme Daoyuo Immortal, his ability of deduction also rapidly strengthened. He no longer needed to cast spells or use divine skills or the power of the great Tao. He only needed to think to reach the answer. His gaze swept across, and answers continuously emerged in his mind. The endless Tao Mountain, a holy land of cultivation above all heavens. Almost every cultivator who comes here has a significant background. The reason why those figures were shrouded in mysterious black and gray auras was not of their own doing, but because of the protective power of the rules of the endless Tao Mountain. As long as they stepped into this place, they would be enveloped by the power of the rules, preventing deduction. The endless Tao Mountain is unowned, and immortal gods, human demons, and demon evils may all come to seek enlightenment. Combat is not allowed here, even immortal gods must abide by the rules. Guwen also found a place from where he could leave the endless Tao Mountain. Different places lead to different cosmic planes, some emanating an aura making him wary to explore. He even suspected that a certain place might connect to the celestial court. Whatever he wanted to understand, he could get an answer, unless it involved a power higher than his own. This was no longer mere deduction but a higher tier power, a power that could only be unlocked by reaching Tao extreme Daoyuo Immortal. Tao extreme Daoyuo Immortal, nearly immortal, omniscient, and omnipotent, truly the pinnacle of the immortal Tao. While enjoying the improvement of his cultivation level, Guwen's gaze swept over, gaining a deeper and deeper understanding of the endless Tao Mountain. He decided to return and have a look sometime later. Although he could not yet determine how far the endless Tao Mountain was from the celestial spirit Great World, he could leave a mark and trace this realm from the celestial spirit Great World. Time flowed swiftly. Those existing at the summit of the endless Tao Mountain merely observed silently, with no one choosing to flee this world. Thus the endless Tao Mountain did not descend into chaos, and no one arrived at the Tao Mountain where Guan resided. Ultimately, by the time Guan reached the mid-stage of the Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal realm, no one invaded the Tao Mountain where he was located. He looked at his attribute panel. 900 billion years of lifespan remained. He could not break through again. Guan took a deep breath, stood up, and chose to teleport back. Immediately after, he disappeared from where he stood. The anomaly of the endless Tao Mountain had not yet completely dissipated, but the heavenly thunders in the sky gradually thinned, and the sound also diminished. At dusk, Taoist field of the beginningless. Guan leisurely continued along the mountain path. After half a day's search, his divine sense had locked onto the endless Tao Mountain. When returning to the endless Tao Mountain in the future, there is no need to use lifespan for breakthroughs again. Actually, while coming back, he could rely on himself to return. However, considering the presence of Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortals and Heavenly Court Immortals at the endless Tao Mountain, he decided to proceed with caution. Using 10 billion years of lifespan to ensure safety. No matter how high the realm is, caution is needed, especially when facing beings of the same realm. Guan was in a pleasant mood. After reaching the Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal, he could see further, and the future heaven's calamities were all within his sight, posing no threat to him. He arrived at the courtyard, and his gaze turned towards Xianxia in front of the artifact refining cauldron. He peered into the causal connection to Fairy Yaoxian within Xianxia, seeing a line connecting to the outer heaven. He looked up, following that line across countless worlds and universes, and he saw an absolutely black void. Fairy Yaoxian's soul was hidden in that void. Moreover, there were other souls there, countless in number, all of whom were exiled by the path of cause and effect. There were existences of all realms, even Daoyuo immortals, all immobilized and in slumber. Causeless realm. Guan's mind received the name of that void, and his brows furrowed. He could feel the threat of the causeless realm, which harbored extremely terrifying power. Despite being a place of exile by the path of cause and effect, it seemed there existed a will in this realm capable of free action, more frightening than the Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortals of the endless Tao Mountain. It seems rescuing Fairy Yaoxian is not yet possible. Guan silently withdrew his gaze, not in a hurry. Judging by Fairy Yaoxian's current state, she wasn't suffering. Her consciousness had already fallen asleep, losing the concept of time. As long as he saved her before her soul dissipated, it wouldn't matter how much time passed in between, making no difference to her. Xianxia seemed to sense Guan's gaze, turning her head to look. Sir, the Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Upon seeing Guan, her expression changed slightly, and she appeared a bit dazed. Although Guan's appearance, temperament, and aura hadn't changed in the slightest, her intuition told her he had grown stronger again. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 651 White-Haired Ancestor, what are you looking at? Guan asked Xianxia with a smile. He could hear the speculations in Xianxia's heart, but he didn't reveal them. Even in front of Xianxia, Guan wouldn't disclose his true strength. Xianxia snapped back to reality and asked, "The Tianhong Emperor has left. Do you really think relying on him can save the world?" These years, the human world has become increasingly chaotic, and she can also sense a mysterious force manipulating the lives of all beings in the shadows. Such a power must involve outer heaven. This is not the cause and effect that the Tianhong Emperor of Dao Void Profound Immortal Realm can conclude, even if he holds a Dao treasure. Guan moved a chair nearby closer to him with a wave, sat down, and said, "Don't underestimate his potential. He has the talent comparable to Tian Hao. Do you think he seems like an ordinary person? Does he also have an immortal god's background? Perhaps. Hearing this from Guwen, Shenzhen could conclude that the Tianhong Emperor had an inseparable connection with the immortal gods. Click click. The immortal gods are elusive and never to be seen, yet near Guwen, they seem not so extraordinary. Shenzhen looked at Guwen by her side, her eyes filled with a strange radiance. She was very curious about what role Guwen played in the eyes of the immortal gods. Shenzhen jokingly asked, "With so many immortal gods appearing before you, the celestial court's target wouldn't be you, right? If one day the celestial court invites you to join the immortal class, what would you choose?" "That would depend on what the immortal position is," Guwen replied casually. Shenzhen's eyes smiled into crescent moons as she asked, "What if they invited you to tend horses?" She had initially reached out to Guwen because she liked his books and continued to flip through The Investiture of the Gods, Journey to the West, and Supreme Immortal Venerable, to this day. Guwen threw Shenzhen a sidelong glance and said unkindly, "You're so humorous. If that's the case, then I'll go tend the horses and bring you along to assist me." Sure. The horses in the heavens must be extraordinary," Shenzhen said excitedly, causing Guwen to shake his head and laugh. The two plotted for some time about going to the celestial court to tend horses before they started talking about world affairs. Shenzhen was very curious about what the mysterious force causing chaos in the human world was. Guwen didn't hide it and shared his discovery with her, hoping to increase her understanding of the Great Tao. Speaking of it, apart from an Exin, Guwen also put great effort into nurturing Shenzhen. It wasn't because he was biased, but because others hadn't reached the stage of enlightenment and were still in the low-level stage of practicing in retreat. Shenzhen was able to achieve her current accomplishments because she received the cause and effect of the Emperor of Eternal Life. Of course, this doesn't mean she was just lucky. After all, she regarded Guwen as her only reliance, unlike the celestial demon child, who has a life-and-death relationship with Guwen. She abandoned other connections to choose Guwen, which is also the reason why the Emperor of Eternal Life chose her. Everything has cause and effect. Behind every coincidence is inevitability. That year, the human world faced a change because a once peerless prodigy from ages past was reborn. The Tianhong Emperor did not return to the Tao court but traveled the lands, suppressing evil forces everywhere. As the world's ruler, the Tao court also exerted efforts to quell chaos. Many prodigies emerged as saviors, the most renowned among them being the current chief disciple of the Tao court, Zhao Rushan. In those chaotic and dark years, the Tianhong Emperor and Zhao Rushan appeared like two stars, wanting to use their faint light to illuminate the entire world. 100 years later, on this morning, after picking medicinal herbs within the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guwen left alone. As he walked through the woods outside the field, his figure suddenly vanished. He continued onward, but the universe beneath his feet changed with each step, traversing a cosmic plane. Time and space reeled back, light sped in reverse. His steps seemed swift but slow due to the lack of an end. Suddenly, black gas swirled around Guwen, quickly enveloping him. As his right foot set down, he found himself in a dim void. He halted and looked ahead, seeing an endless expanse of Tao mountains, all magnificent and impressive, towering like deities in the distance with divine might emanating boundlessly, full of oppressive force. Endless Tao mountains. Guwen had just manifested but immediately felt the force of this place's rules surging toward him, seemingly wanting to cloak him in a layer preventing cause and effect analysis, yet he didn't hide his true form. He continued to maintain the great Tao formless body, for he was also wary of these rules. Once the force of the rules bound him, he felt his actions weren't restricted. It was a very intriguing rule. He stepped forward, admiring the towering Tao mountains along the way. Saw the novel, F.I.R. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Before coming, he had suppressed his cultivation level to heaven-opening Daluo Immortal, and not only that, he had also reduced his presence to appear as a mysterious, cautious cultivator inadvertently exuding a slight heaven-opening Daluo Immortal aura. Coming to the endless Tao mountains, he wasn't seeking cultivation but information, wanting to forge connections with the cultivators here and gain more insights into the great Tao. If he could learn more about the celestial court here, that would be even better. He wandered aimlessly, noticing most cultivators occupied a Dao mountain alone, as there were indeed too many. The cultivators seemed wary of each other too. This could be troublesome. Guwen began to miss Wuxia of Human World Peak. When he first ventured to Outer Heaven, he met the enthusiastic Wuxia, who even introduced him to Human World Peak. Although Human World Peak hadn't greatly aided his cultivation, it did help him better understand the heavens and earth, which is why he had never severed ties with Human World Peak, cherishing these bonds. He continued roaming, waiting for an opportunity. During this time, he also saw other figures entering endless Dao mountains, most having clear objectives, flying swiftly. Guwen spotted a figure that seemed as confused as him, moving slowly and constantly looking around. He hesitated for a moment, then cautiously flew over as if he was being careful. The other was also a heaven-opening Daoyuo Immortal. Perhaps having some degree of confidence, they dared to wander like this. Guwen previously saw a Taiching Golden Immortal enter and immediately hide within a Dao mountain. This heaven-opening Daoyuo Immortal had a slightly slender figure, resembling a Taoist, holding a horsetail whisk resembling a sword. Seeing Guwen approaching, he stopped and turned to look at him. "Fellow Taoist, may I ask if this is the endless Dao mountains?" Guwen asked, changing his voice. This is indeed the endless Dao mountains. Is it your first time here?" The other replied, their tone slightly cold. "Yes, I've heard the endless Dao mountains contain endless true meanings of the great Dao. My Dao practice has reached a bottleneck, so I wanted to give it a try. The great Dao aura here is indeed dense, even beyond my imagination, but it's different from what I expected." At the end of his sentence, Guwen pretended to hesitate. "Didn't expect there to be so many people here, right?" The other chimed in. "Exactly." Guwen's tone contained a hint of amazement. The other remarked, "Those who come here to cultivate are truly great powers from various realms. It only goes to show how vast the great Dao is, far beyond our imagination. I had some understanding of the endless Dao mountains before coming, but upon arrival, like you, I was astonished. My name is Xianxia, from the Misty Immortal Court. What's your name, and which sect do you hail from?" Misty Immortal Court? Guwen didn't expect the first Daoyuo Immortal he would meet to be from the Misty Immortal Court. He followed with, "My name is Meng Lang. When I attained Golden Immortal, my sect was destroyed, so I've been wandering without a sect for now." Upon hearing, Xianxia said, "With your Dao practice, founding a sect wouldn't be difficult." Guwen shook his head. "Forget it. Having a sect means having burdens. I prefer pursuing the great Dao freely and unfettered." "That's certainly reasonable," Xianxia agreed, seemingly deep in thought before falling silent. Guwen pondered on how to further the relationship. "Fellow Taoist Meng, since you're also new here, I assume you don't know where to head next. Why not join me to listen to a true Immortal's lecture?" Xianxia invited. Guwen was flattered and hesitantly asked, "I follow you? Is that suitable?" Xianxia reassured, "Don't worry, I don't have any connection with that true Immortal. Their lectures aren't private, anyone can attend and listen." "May I ask the name of the true Immortal?" "He is revered as the white-haired ancestor, a highly respected immortal god of the celestial court. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 652. Preaching, the incomparable Liya of today and the past. The dojo of the white-haired ancestor is situated on the endless Dao mountain. Led by Xianxia, the two soon reached the Dao mountain where teachings were held. The height of this Dao mountain ranked among the top 10, and there was an abundance of powerful presences on the mountain. They flew to a mid-mountain location where a sprawling open-air palace had been constructed. On the palace, there were thousands of mats, and already dozens of figures had gathered here. These figures were shrouded in the aura of rules, their true forms not revealed. Xianxia was familiar with some of them and introduced Guwen to these individuals of great power. The atmosphere was quite congenial, and the conversation was enjoyable. Among those who came to listen to the teachings were also Taiching Golden Immortals, who dared not intrude on the conversations of the Daoyuo Immortals and stayed at a distance. As Guwen conversed with other Daluo immortals, he was also reflecting in his heart. Indeed, no matter where you go, there will always be hierarchy. In any great thousand world, a Taiqing golden immortal would be an unimaginable powerhouse, yet here, they were all very constrained, lacking the demeanor of a supreme being. He only sighed briefly, not giving it much thought. Those he conversed with were heaven-opening Daluo immortals, while afar, there was a Miaozhen Daluo immortal whom no one dared disturb. Through other heaven-opening Daluo immortals, Guwen gained a deeper understanding of the white-haired ancestor, who held a status in the celestial court far above that of an immortal monarch. He also learned that this lecture might last several hundred, or even thousands, of years, with still several months before it began. Guwen was not inclined to listen to the teachings here for thousands of years, as he also needed to gather medicinal herbs. So, before the arrival of the white-haired ancestor, he switched to a clone, and his true self secretly exited the endless Dao Mountain, returning to the celestial spirit great world unnoticed by the great cultivators present. Even when in the celestial spirit great world, he could connect his mind with the clone, equivalent to listening in person. Such a method probably didn't count as disrespect, and he thought that other listeners might not all be their true selves either. In the following times, more listeners continued to arrive. With the help of Hongya Guwen met numerous powerful figures from different factions. Hongya even introduced him to a star monarch of the Celestial Palace. Although this star monarch had only the cultivation level of a Taiqing golden immortal, relying on the Celestial Palace meant no others dared disrespect him. Even in the endless Dao Mountain, the Celestial Palace held absolute authority, and no one dared to offend it. Through Hongya Guwen also understood that the Celestial Palace had little renown across the 3,000 great thousand worlds because the rulers of various places did not wish their subjects to know there was an even mightier existence overseeing them, and the celestial gods guarding the great thousand worlds also gave face by not appearing rashly. This broadened Guwen's horizons. Apparently, there were relationships of interest between the celestial gods of other great thousand worlds and their rulers. No wonder people from other great thousand worlds frequently took the celestial order through the world gate. Months quickly passed by. By the day of the lecture, the number of listeners at this dojo had exceeded 800, with most discussing the phenomenon before the endless Dao Mountain. Guwen was already seated, patiently waiting for the arrival of the white-haired ancestor. He sensed the aura of a Dao extreme Daluo immortal at the top of Dao Mountain. Surely, that must be the white-haired ancestor. Guwen silently compared and felt that the opponent's cultivation might be in the late or perfection realm of the Dao extreme Daluo immortal stage. Although he was already a Dao extreme Daluo immortal, his life had been so short, like a child compared to a true Daluo immortal, so he was full of anticipation for this lecture. He wanted to see how vast the Dao intent of other Dao extreme Daluo immortals was, and how teachings from beyond heaven differed from his own. Dong. A bell sound reverberated through the entire Dao Mountain, bringing quiet to the dojo, as a white light fell from the sky onto the steps in front of the palace, mighty immortal energy dispersing, forming a strong wind over every listener. Guwen squinted and saw a figure descending from the white light. The white-haired ancestor. Dao extreme Daluo immortal. Within the dojo, there were only 2 Miaozhen Daluo immortals, and even if the aura of all the listeners combined, it couldn't match the white-haired ancestor. This made most listeners sit up straight involuntarily. As the white light faded, the figure of the white-haired ancestor was revealed. Though her entire form was surrounded by the gray aura of rules, from her silhouette, she was clearly a female immortal, holding a horsetail whisk in her hand, her robes wrapped tightly around her. This time, I will be discussing the path of power for you all. The voice of the white-haired ancestor sounded, melodious indeed, a female voice infused with immense Dao intent, causing the Dao rules on the Dao Mountain to pause. Thank you, ancestor. The listeners all bowed and said, and Guwen followed suit in salutation. The path of power? He indeed wished to see what distinctive insights this white-haired ancestor had on the path of power, given that he had also mastered it and held great interest in it. The white-haired ancestor sat down, and beneath her appeared a green lotus, equally unfathomable. Guwen even felt the lotus harbored power not weaker than that of the white-haired ancestor. As the white-haired ancestor began her teachings, time swiftly flowed by. Guwen's mind was also immersed in the listening, following the guidance of the white-haired ancestor to comprehend the path of power. While the clone listened to the teachings on the endless Tao Mountain, Guwen continued living in the celestial spirit great world. Harvesting medicinal herbs had become a regular task for him, one that he wouldn't interrupt. The conflicts in the human world grew more intense, with volatile rulers emerging within various sects and imperial dynasties, inciting more fierce power struggles internally, including within the Tao court. When internal strife engulfed the Tao court, unable to fully salvage the worldly chaos, disorder across the universe intensified. Emperor Tianhong had fully harnessed the power of the longevity sword, capable of contending against the free immortal of Taoist song, yet his pressure continued to grow. He underestimated the difficulty of the salvation task arranged by the supporting Tao sword venerable. So the novel, Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. In attempting to align with the Tao court, the result was that the Tao court soon erupted into chaos. Some even coveted his physical body, attempting to possess him. After much fighting, he completely severed ties with the Tao court, and under Zhao Rushan's scheming, became a most wanted criminal of the Tao court. He had no choice but to use Tao treasures to seek out other Wuxia disciples still making their way in the world. Guwen observed all these scenes without issuing more directives. Until one day, someone appeared in front of the mountain gate of the Qiankuan sect, wearing black clothes, a bamboo hat, and carrying a sword, appearing travel-worn. He looked up at the plaque above the mountain gate, revealing a cold face. It was Liya. A divine exotic immortal spirit jumped out of his body, landing on his shoulder. Looking at the Qiankuan sect, it sighed, such abundant destiny, far beyond what the supreme sect can compare to, no wonder it's a force nurtured by the master. Li Ya's gaze was complicated. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. May I ask your origins, sir, and if you have an invitation to join the sect? A Qiankuan sect disciple raised a sword scabbard, blocking Liya, his gaze calm as he scrutinized him. Liya took out a token from his sleeve, saying, I have the token of Elder Li Xuanyu, I am her clansman. The Qiankuan sect disciple took the token, examined it carefully, then allowed Liya to enter the sect upon confirming it was genuine. The divine exotic immortal spirit stood on Li Ya's shoulder, jesting, even though you're already a divine immortal of wondrous dharma, these disciples still don't take you seriously. It seems your cultivation isn't enough yet. Liya snorted. Nowadays, geniuses keep emerging. What's my talent worth? Don't provoke me. I am no longer the hot-blooded Li Yao of old. The divine exotic immortal spirit covered its mouth and laughed, but didn't tease him further. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 653. The calamity ends as the cup falls under the blue sky, with green mountains and clear waters, birds sing and flowers blossom. Liya and Li Xuanyu sat in a small pavilion below the mountain stream, drinking tea and catching up. Listening to Liya recount his experiences over the years, Li Xuanyu appeared indifferent but was feeling a lot of emotions inside. Compared to Liya, she felt much luckier. In order to become stronger, Liya had to roam around and seize opportunities, engaging in combat year after year, whereas she had no shortage of cultivation resources within the Qiankuan sect and faced no bottlenecks in practice. Regarding the absence of bottlenecks in her practice, she suspected that Guwen was secretly helping her. Before meeting Guwen, her comprehension wasn't as impressive. After finishing his legendary tales, Liya raised an eyebrow as he looked at Li Xuanyu and asked, Sister, how have you been these years? He was unaware of the emotions in Li Xuanya's heart. He was still very proud of his own experiences, and although he wasn't listed among the prodigies, his reputation was not low, and it was all earned through his own efforts. Li Xuanyu didn't conceal her experiences and began to recount how she was mainly advancing her status within the Qiankuan sect. In the end, Li Xuanyu sighed. Compared to you, my life is too plain. Liya was initially engrossed, but the more he listened, the more he felt something was off. With the assistance of the sect's great powers, she successfully crossed the tribulation and broke through to the heaven and earth flying immortal realm. Under the guidance of immortals, she achieved the Xiaoyao immortal realm. During the celestial tribulation when crossing the mysterious spiritual immortal realm, she almost perished, luckily aided by the Wuxia Dao treasure. Liya opened his mouth wanting to ask, "Is this right?" He knew Li Zuanya's talent. Back on the Taizong continent, he had already surpassed Li Xuanyu. After tens of thousands of years of wandering the world, encountering numerous opportunities, he had endured countless hardships just to prove himself in the divine immortal of wondrous Dharma realm. The difficulties Li Xuanyu encountered during her tribulations were the same as his, and every time he succeeded he was badly wounded and suffered greatly. And Li Xuanyu? Even though she was his own sister, Liya couldn't help feeling uncomfortable. "Junior brother Gu, are you trying to tell me that staying by your side holds more promise?" Liya felt that Gu Wen was deliberately nurturing Li Xuanyu. If it were just an ordinary connection, protection would already be commendable. How could Li Xuanyu have cultivated to her current realm? And so quickly? Li Xuanyu asked, "Why have you come?" But Liya felt inexplicably blocked in his heart. His relationship with Gu Wen was closer, so why did it now seem more distant? Liya answered, "Regarding this world, I have obtained some information that I want to convey to Fu Dao Sword Venerable." He almost couldn't help but refer to Gu Wen as Junior Brother Gu, but then thought that Gu Wen was Fu Dao Sword Venerable and was the one who altered Li Zuanya's fate. He shouldn't be so impolite. Moreover, after tens of thousands of years, would Gu Wen still recognize him as senior brother? SAR the Novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. As his realm grew higher, Liya's understanding also improved, and he became increasingly in awe of Fu Dao Sword Venerable's power. No matter how strong he became, he was still an ordinary person in this world. He had encountered too many existences that made him look up in awe, which is why he was often amazed by Gu Wen's strength. What kind of strength could allow Gu Wen to disregard the entire celestial spirit great world, and even confront terrifying existences from outer heaven? About the world? Li Xuanyu was surprised, and was about to ask more. Suddenly, a figure appeared beside the two of them. The newcomer rolled up his sleeves and sat down directly. Li Xuanyu was stunned, staring blankly at Gu Wen. Liya was equally shocked when he saw Gu Wen suddenly sitting beside him. Gu Wen was dressed in white, wearing a newly crafted immortal king crown, exuding an ethereal aura, and with that nearly perfect face, he seemed like an immortal monarch descended from the heavens. "What? Not welcoming me?" Gu Wen smiled, then nonchalantly poured himself some tea. Li Xuanyu regained her composure and said, "How could we not welcome you? I just didn't expect you to come out personally." Her gaze inadvertently turned to Liya. She had known for a long time that Gu Wen valued Liya greatly, but she didn't expect that as soon as Liya arrived, Gu Wen would personally come to meet him. This affection runs deep. Her heart was filled with confusion. Logically, when Gu Wen met Liya, he was already a transcendent great power, so how could spending just a few years together in the profound valley forge such a bond? Or was there a potential within Liya that she couldn't see through? Gu Wen drank a cup of tea and said with a chuckle, "Go ahead, what is this intelligence about the world that you need to tell me?" Liya snapped back to reality, his expression turning serious, and said, "The world is becoming increasingly chaotic. I initially thought it was just celestial Dao reincarnation, until I met an old Taoist. He was a servant of the heavenly Dao and had encountered some kind of curse. Before he died, he told me that a grudge power from outer heaven is tainting the human world. It will amplify the evil thoughts in living beings' hearts, and if this force isn't eradicated, chaos in the human world will continue until the world perishes." Li Zuanya's expression changed after hearing this, and she instinctively looked at Gu Wen, wanting to know if what Liya said was true. She believed that Gu Wen could see through everything in the world. Gu Wen looked at Liya and softly laughed. "You also mentioned it amplifies the evil thoughts in hearts, which suggests that there is already grudge in the hearts of all beings, doesn't it?" What Liya said was indeed true. Those believers who spread the heavenly Tao and celestial court in the human world had been subjected to curses in succession. Clearly, that strange force dreaded the celestial court, but with so many great thousand worlds being invaded by the strange force, could the celestial court be unaware? Guwen had already detected the source of the strange force, which came from Chaos Grudge Luo, an evil entity originating from beyond the 3,000 great worlds with cultivation at the middle stage of the Miao Jin Daluo Immortal realm. After deducing, Guwen realized there are many similar evil entities like Chaos Grudge Luo within Chaos, and the presence of Celestial Court destiny at the edge of Chaos indicated that the Celestial Court had long been targeting Chaos. Chaos Grudge Luo invading the 3,000 great worlds seems like a conspiracy from whichever angle. This conspiracy might originate from profound star Immortal monarch. How could he be the one to stick his neck out? When the celestial spirit great world truly reaches the brink of life and death, then he would act. He had saved this part of the great thousand world many times, but the living beings he saved would eventually head towards death, and his intervention was merely to extend the lifespan of all living beings. Humans have emotions and desires, so evil thoughts cannot be eradicated, but the outer heaven force certainly conceals a greater calamity. Perhaps this force grows stronger by absorbing the evil thoughts of all living beings? Leah said, frowning. Guwen cast a sidelong glance at him and said irritably, "It's not that exaggerated." He had already seen through the reason Chaos Grudge Luo released the strange force. It wasn't to absorb the power of all living beings, but rather, as its grudge power covered more, the celestial Tao destiny would recede. Once the celestial Tao destiny completely dissipated, Chaos Grudge Luo would descend. Before breaking through, he also thought Chaos Grudge Luo's invasion of the Great Thousand World was for feeding or strengthening. Now it seems, the invaded Great Thousand Worlds resemble a path. Chaos Grudge Luo might be fleeing or attempting to reach a certain place, but encountering too much celestial Tao destiny along the way, it could only act in this manner. It's like a refugee fleeing, being too hurried to care if any bugs were squashed along the way. Li Xuanyu chimed in, "Endless are the tribulations of the world, we cannot always rely on the sword venerable. The lessons learned from blood will be left in history, for future generations to remember, thereby avoiding more disasters." She was also comprehending the path of cause and effect, and her greatest insight was that as long as there is spiritual intelligence, conflict is inevitable, and with enough conflict, disaster is bound to occur. She believed that one must save oneself amidst disasters rather than seek assistance from strong entities outside the rules. Lately, there have been undercurrents surging within the Qianquan sect, and the atmosphere has become increasingly severe. However, the higher-ups didn't want to ask for Wuxi's help, as that would appear incompetent. But Leah hesitated, having initially thought the matter would not be difficult for Guwen, hence why he sought Guwen out, only to be refused unexpectedly. Guwen gently pushed his teacup towards Leah and said, "Does senior brother Li very much want to end this chaos?" Leah instinctively picked up the teapot and poured tea for Guwen, then asked, "What do you mean, just because I want it, it can happen? Since you came looking for me, how could I not fulfill your wish?" Guwen said with great vigor. In front of others, he would pretend to be a sage, but in front of Leah, he wanted to show off a bit. Leah was greatly surprised, but recalling Li Zuanya's words, he felt they made sense. Once this tribulation ends, what about the next? Would he have to seek out Guwen every time? Leah furrowed his brow, hesitating. Would doing this deplete your cultivation level or bring you immense trouble? Guwen lifted his teacup and emptied it again, then shook the cup at Leah and said, "This catastrophe may be unstoppable for the all-living beings under heaven, but for me, it's just like putting down this cup." As he finished speaking, he gently placed the teacup down. He looked at Leah and smiled. "See, isn't it done?" Leah was stunned. Li Zuanya's eyes also showed a look of confusion. Little did they know that the strange force enveloping the all-living beings under heaven dissipated in that instant, ceasing to exist. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 654. The change of cause and effect, isn't it already done? Upon hearing Gu An's words, Leah was momentarily dazed. Such a boastful tone. So good at pretending. Leah secretly grumbled, then asked, "When will you take action?" If peace could return to the world, that would naturally be a good thing. Guan looked at Leah, blinked, and said, "Haven't I already taken action?" Leah widened his eyes and said in a deep voice, "Junior brother Gu, don't jest with me. Did your cup land on the table and disperse that bizarre power covering all living beings?" Guan smiled at him, not answering. Li Xuanyu was the first to believe Gu An's words, her gaze at Guan full of indescribable meaning. See Novel Ire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Faced with Gu An's smile, Leah suddenly felt a jolt in his heart. Could it be that Guan was not boasting but actually did it? But why did he not feel any trace of it? Could it be that before he came, Guan had already resolved that strange power? Leah was filled with confusion, not knowing what to ask. "What are your plans for the future? Do you need to enter the Dao court?" Guan asked, not continuing to discuss the strange power. He believed that after parting this time, Leah would investigate this matter, and then Leah would be even more amazed by his strength. Leah did not question Gu An's ability to arrange for him to enter the Dao court, but he shook his head and said, "I don't want to be restricted, otherwise I would have stayed at the Supreme Sect all along. I plan to continue traveling, as there are countless opportunities in this world that have yet to bore me." Besides the opportunities nurtured by the Great Thousand World after its reshaping, Gu An once spread treasures from the battle court across the world. To this day, 70% of them have yet to surface, including various inheritances. Even Leah, as a divine immortal of wondrous dharma, and indeed a profound yuan-free immortal, would encounter suitable divine skills and secret skills. After hearing this, Guan did not insist. He began reminiscing about the past, causing both Li Xuanyu and Leah to be filled with emotion. 160,000 years ago, even if they were beaten to death, they could never have imagined achieving the accomplishments and status they enjoy today. Speaking of old friends, they began to talk more to each other, with Li Xuanyu occasionally interjecting. The atmosphere was very harmonious. 1 hour later, Guan invited Leah to visit the Qianquan sect, while Li Xuanyu found an excuse to leave, not disturbing them. After they were alone, Leah no longer held back and began to talk about his troubles over the years. He spoke about family, love, and enemies, saying whatever came to mind. Even when facing his wife and children, he would never show a vulnerable side, but facing Guan, he couldn't help but speak of these matters. Guan listened attentively, occasionally teasing Leah, causing Leah's emotions to fluctuate. After staying at the Qianquan sect for 2 days, Guan took Leah to Wuxia to see his dojo. Upon stepping into the dojo, Leah was awestruck by the spiritual energy present. Guan accompanied Leah on a stroll inside the dojo, where they encountered disciples cultivating. The dojo was vast, and the disciples preferred to cultivate alone in different spots. Upon seeing Gu An's arrival, the disciples all paid their respects, and Guan introduced Leah to them. The disciples had an impression of Leah, having heard from an Xen that Leah was the person Guan cared about most. Leah could sense that each Wuxia disciple's cultivation level was not weaker than his own, and an Xian and the Blood Prison Great Saint gave him an overwhelming sense of pressure. However, Leah wasn't discouraged, believing it only natural to train alongside Guan. After staying at the Taoist field of the Beginningless for 3 days, he bid farewell to Guan. "Would you like to stay and cultivate?" Guan asked with a smile. Leah shook his head and said, "I've relied on you a lot already. To tell the truth, I still have the ambition to surpass you. Though cultivating by your side would be faster, it's impossible to surpass you, so I need to forge my own path, and my nature isn't suited to long-term seclusion. The world is vast, and my eyes have yet to fully take it in. After I've roamed across this world, I'll return to reminisce with you." At this, Leah became high-spirited. Guan greatly admired his ambition and thus did not stop him. "Besides, I need to see if you've truly resolved the catastrophe," Leah stated, staring intensely at Guan, as if challenging him. Guan laughed and said, "I'm afraid these eyes of yours won't perceive if I've truly resolved it." Upon hearing this, Liya was instantly frustrated. The divine exotic immortal spirit popped out and said, pitifully, "Master, I want to stay." Liya immediately grabbed it, and with an awkward smile, said to Guan, "It's speaking nonsense." The divine exotic immortal spirit widened its eyes, struggling hard. "You two do match well." Guan shook his head and laughed. He could hear the thoughts of the divine exotic immortal spirit, knowing it was reluctant to leave Liya, and spoke out of disapproval of Liya's posturing. "We're leaving now." Liya left this utterance, taking the divine exotic immortal spirit with him. Guan stood amid the woods, watching them leave, feeling quite amused by their banter. The power of divine exotic city was inferior to Dao treasure. Even if had given divine exotic city to Liya, he wouldn't have minded. The reason for maintaining a layer of connection was in case Liya suddenly left his line of sight in the future. An Xan appeared beside Guan, also watching Liya's back. She curiously asked, "Master, did Elder Li's causal change, was it your doing?" Though she couldn't clearly see all of Liya's fate, she could feel the changes in Liya's fate and causality, affecting his destiny. "No, it's his choices that changed his causality," Guan answered calmly. Though the strange power had been dispelled by Guan, Liya's interest in powers from outer heaven had been piqued, and he would focus more on everything related to outer heaven, thereby altering his life's path. With Guan's influence existing, the future of the reincarnation body would become more and more illusory. After all, the reincarnation body itself is determined by the original body. Guan's current strength could create different futures, even make different futures exist truly. Using modern Earth's terms, he could create parallel worlds with a single thought. An Xian had a thoughtful expression, believing Liya's change in choices was also due to this conversation with Guan. Guan turned around and returned, with an Xian closely following, starting to ask him about her cultivation doubts. Though the strange power had been dispersed by Guan, the hatred among people had already formed, and the chaos in the human world would continue for a while, but compared to before, it wouldn't become more tragic. Meanwhile, Emperor Tianhong would earlier confront Zhao Rushan, marking the beginning of an unprecedented era of dual heroes. This contention would also shake the foundations of the Dao court, bringing a new variable to the dynamics of the human world. Endless Dao Mountain. The white-haired ancestor lectured for a millennium, and as the bell rang, all listeners awoke. I permit each of you to ask one question. Once I've resolved everyone's doubts, this lecture will conclude. You may ask about any confusion during the lecture, or ask questions unrelated to this lecture. The voice of the white-haired ancestor rose, causing whispers to ripple through the dojo. Guan also began to ponder what kind of question he should ask the white-haired ancestor. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 655. Tsungen, Infinite. After the words of the white-haired ancestor ended, he did not give the listeners much time to think and soon had the listener sitting at the front ask a question. This listener inquired about the confusion arising during the hearing of the Tao. The path of power is vast and boundless, and the Tao practice of the white-haired ancestor is extremely profound. Even Guan, with his achievements in Tao comprehension, benefited greatly from the listening. Facing the listener's question, the white-haired ancestor quickly dispelled doubts, answering with profound meaning, causing many listeners to fall into contemplation. The white-haired ancestor continued to call on people, letting the listeners ask questions one after another. Sarch * the Nefire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan originally wanted to gather some information, seeing that the previous questions were all about cultivation matters. He felt he couldn't make an exception. However, after several dozen listeners, someone finally asked a question unrelated to cultivation. Ancestor, you are honored as the Celestial Tao Venerable of the Celestial Court. How do you view the relationship between chaos and the Celestial Court? Does the Celestial Court leave room for chaos? This listener's voice was female, her words sharp, her tone aggressive, more like an interrogation. Guan felt that despite her cultivation level being just at the heaven-opening Daluo Immortal, she dared to speak to the white-haired ancestor in such a manner, What kind of backing did she have? Chaos is the place where the great Tao is nurtured. It cannot be eradicated. The celestial court can only set boundaries, leaving no room for leeway. The white-haired ancestor responded indifferently, his tone unchanged from before, seeming not to be angered. This listener was surrounded by the aura of rules. Guwen was also unsure if she was satisfied with the answer. Questions continued, and once someone led, subsequent questions were all related to the celestial court. Besides the celestial Tao immortal position assessment and participating in celestial army selection, is there a third way to join the immortal class? If one renders great merit to the living beings of a certain world, the celestial court will also reward them, allowing them to join the immortal class. This is also the main purpose of the heavenly Tao. The god of destruction destroyed the Lingjiang great world without proclaiming the celestial court's decree. Is there another scheme behind this? I do not control the celestial gods. I cannot answer you. I also will not help you investigate this matter. If you are dissatisfied, you can petition Xianxia. Facing the listener's inquiries, the white-haired ancestor's every answer came quickly. She did not seem to hold the posture of an immortal god, and she also displayed considerable toughness in the face of some challenging questions. Through the listener's questions, Guwen also learned about Xianxia. Xianxia is a kind of will manifested by the celestial court using the heavenly Tao, omnipresent. If there is suffering in the human world, one can complain to Xianxia, and it will be conveyed to the celestial court. The white-haired ancestor used Xianxia to handle many listeners' grievances. Guwen also felt that Xianxia was quite far-fetched, but it related to the celestial Tao destiny which even a Tao extreme Daoyuo immortal could not deduce. Throughout the listening, he had only one feeling. All living beings have long suffered under the celestial court. The celestial court's inaction and wanton actions are clearly not isolated incidents. Yet faced with so many complaints, the white-haired ancestor remained indifferent, did not make any promises, but also did not get angry over the listener's questions. She truly resembled the immortal god Guwen imagined, not feeling joy or sorrow over the happiness or suffering of all living beings. She seemed unconcerned with the suffering of all beings. Her purpose here was not to do anything for the celestial court. She simply wished to expound on the Tao, seeking nothing in return. Guwen had to admit that such a mindset was the strongest, unbound by any factors. Of course, due to his stance, Guwen could not agree with the celestial court, because their inaction also posed a threat to him. Time quickly passed. Unknowingly, it was Guwen's turn to speak. He was already prepared. When the white-haired ancestor's gaze fell on him, he opened his mouth and asked, I have traveled to many universes, finding those powerful ones in infinite expansion. I want to ask, is the great Tao truly infinite, and what is our meaning as cultivators within the great Tao? Regarding the celestial court's issues, many had already asked, making him unwilling to inquire further. Whether the great Tao is infinite, this is a question he pondered frequently. If the great Tao is truly infinite, it would mean that time and space are also infinite, with no distinction between ancient and future, and cultivators are merely part of the great Tao, never able to surpass it. If Guwen were also infinite like the great Tao, he should not only have infinite possibilities in the future, his past should also be without end. He could not imagine having no origin to his past. This is like the question of which came first, the chicken or the egg. If Guwen is the chicken, aiming to achieve infinity like the great Tao, wouldn't he need to create an egg for himself, which easily leads to a paradox. The existence of the path of cause and effect proves that everything has a starting point. Guwen's question brought silence to the dojo. No longer were there whispers. The white-haired ancestor said, as of now, the great Tao is indeed infinite. Even the celestial court cannot reach the source of the great Tao. Even the supreme celestial emperor cannot see the end of the great Tao. It is precisely for this reason that we can continuously comprehend the great Tao, never feeling weary or satisfied. This answer did not fully satisfy Guwen, but at least clarified that the celestial court has not yet reached the point of dominating the great Tao. The questions continued. When everyone had finished asking, several days had passed. When involving enlightenment issues, the white-haired ancestor would speak more. After the questions ended, the white-haired ancestor rose and left, and once she left, the dojo became lively, with some listeners immediately leaving, while others chose to stay and continue socializing. Hongyazi did not leave, and pulled Guwen along to interact, which suited Guwen perfectly. When meeting a heaven-opening Daluo immortal from the Great Thousand World, Guwen feigned curiosity and asked, "I heard from a fellow Taoist that Chaos Grudge Luo from Chaos is wreaking havoc in the Great Thousand World. Will the Celestial Court handle this matter?" This heaven-opening Daluo immortal, upon hearing this, snorted, "How would the Celestial Court handle it? Chaosa creatures that can survive are basically favored by the great powers of the Celestial Court. I have already detected the matter of Chaos Grudge Luo, affecting several dozen Great Thousand Worlds, yet there are no actions from the Celestial Court. Clearly there is a calculation, we should just pretend not to see." Another Daluo immortal spoke. Indeed, the 3,000 Great Worlds seem to be the heavenly Daos main stage, but more like the Celestial Court's breeding ground. Nothing that happens within the 3,000 Great Worlds can escape their eyes. If they don't act, it indicates it's their doing. Others followed suit, expressing great dissatisfaction with the Celestial Court. Guwen greatly admired them. These people truly dared to speak. They were not afraid of this reaching the ears of the Celestial Court. After their conversation ended, Hongyazi pulled Guwen to a secluded place and whispered, "Are you curious as to why they dare discuss the Celestial Court so boldly?" Guwen nodded. "Because the endless Tao mountain is not affected by celestial Tao destiny, you should be able to feel it, and the immortal gods who can come here aren't bound by the Celestial Court's rules, so it's no harm if they're overheard." Hongyazi explained. Guwen curiously asked, "How does the Misty Immortal Court view the Celestial Court?" The Misty Immortal Court has produced many immortal gods, recognized as a subordinate sect by the Celestial Court. Hongyazi sneered, "How else can they see it? Outwardly they still have to flatter the Celestial Court. Within the heavenly Tao, no force dares to oppose the Celestial Court. Those who resist have already been obliterated. No matter how powerful, they will eventually be destroyed by heavenly might. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 656. Reincarnation of Yuan Luohongzi was clearly quite discontent with the Celestial Court. When Guwen asked, he opened up immediately and began to speak eloquently. It turns out that, although the Misty Immortal Court has a path for ascending to immortality, it comes at a significant cost. Every 10,000 years, it must offer a vast amount of resources to the Celestial Court and erect divine statues of the Heavenly Court Immortals in every immortal mansion. Those who successfully enter the immortal class, although they don't sever ties with the Misty Immortal Court, become arrogant and treat the others as slaves. Through Hongyazi, Guwen gained more understanding of the Misty Immortal Court. Although the destiny of the Misty Immortal Court is not as powerful as the Celestial Court, it is still a formidable existence. Whether there is a perfect Taoist Great Luo immortal realm within it is hard to say at the moment. He can't fully calculate it. The inability to calculate suggests that such an existence might indeed be there. The fact that it can nurture an emperor of eternal life is enough to prove the deep foundation of the Misty Immortal Court. Hongyazi was quite impressed with Guwen, feeling as if they were old friends at first meeting. He even invited Guwen to visit the Misty Immortal Court in the future, handing him a token named the Red Domain Immortal Token. With this token, Guwen could enter the Misty Immortal Court and be honored as a distinguished guest. The Misty Immortal Court possesses numerous immortal domains. Hongyazi is the pavilion master of the Red Domain Immortal Mansion and holds significant power within the Misty Immortal Court. Guwen accepted without reservation, saying he would definitely visit him. Afterward, the two parted ways. Guwen was merely a clone. He did not plan to leave Endless Tao Mountain just yet. Instead, he intended to find a suitable Tao Mountain to settle down on. He didn't need to return to his true self. His true self could already access his memories and even directly control him. At the same time, far away, in the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guwen began to ponder whether or not to visit the Misty Immortal Court to see Hongyazi. Given his current cultivation level, even if he encountered trouble in the Misty Immortal Court, he could easily retreat unscathed. Forget it? There's no need to rush into this matter, especially since he has no pressing reason to visit the misty immortal court. First, he should elevate his cultivation to the perfection realm of the Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal before considering it. Guwen closed his eyes, laying on a rock to bask in the sun, while his thoughts wandered to the omnipresent Tao rules. Atop the magnificent golden furnace, Huang Feng Immortal Monarch sat cross-legged in midair, hands resting on his knees, silently practicing his arts. CTH Novel, F.I.R. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. A golden light appeared behind him, manifesting a figure. It was the celestial calming god. The celestial calming god clasped his fists in salute and said, "Immortal monarch, Chaos Grudge Luo has become a significant force. If we don't suppress him soon, I'm afraid it will cause great trouble. Under the heavens, a higher power will surely notice." Huang Feng Immortal Monarch, with his back turned, did not open his eyes as he asked, "Has the power of the Chaos Grudge Luo invaded the celestial spirit great world?" The celestial calming god frowned and said, "Yes, but his power has vanished. It's unclear whether he withdrew or if a great power intervened." Over the years, he had kept an eye on Chaos Grudge Luo, and was quite surprised by the anomalies in the celestial spirit great world. He hadn't consulted the celestial spirit god, aware of the past of the celestial spirit great world, feeling that there was a great cause and effect in which he dared not indulge. Now, hearing Huang Feng Immortal Monarch mention the celestial spirit great world, his vigilance only heightened. He must absolutely avoid getting entangled with the causes and effects of the celestial spirit great world. Upon hearing his words, Huang Feng Immortal Monarch opened his eyes. He gazed down at the world within the furnace, contemplating something unknown. For a long time. "Begin closing the net. You're responsible for eliminating the power of Chaos Grudge Luo. I will request stronger forces of the heavenly Tao to capture him." Huang Feng Immortal Monarch spoke, allowing the celestial calming god to breathe a sigh of relief as he accepted the order and departed. After the celestial calming god's departure, the area fell silent, with Huang Feng Immortal Monarch's eyes flickering, pondering something in his heart. Time passed gently. Since the teaching session at Endless Tao Mountain ended, Guwen had not encountered any major events, and life became leisurely once more. The dark clouds looming over the world had dissipated, though conflicts in the human world persisted. After Guwen eradicated the power of Chaos Grudge Luo, within 100 years, the Qingquan sect regained peace and began to send disciples out again to save the world. In a blink of an eye, 10,000 years passed in an instant. At over 17 million years old, Guwen had accumulated 16 trillion years of lifespan, using 8 trillion years of lifespan to progress from the early to the middle stage of the Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal Realm, excluding the depletion from the lifespan barrier. Therefore, he planned to reach 20 trillion years of lifespan before attempting to break through to the later stage. Until he reaches the perfection realm of the Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal, he has no intention of pursuing the functional threshold of 100 trillion years of lifespan. In the spring of that year, while Guwen was in the courtyard writing with his brush, he suddenly looked up, his eyes carrying an unusual expression. Xinjin, who was playing the zither beside him, noticed his anomaly and asked, "What is it? Has something happened to the Qingquan sect?" Where Guwen was looking was precisely in the direction of the Qingquan sect. "Nothing much, just that a disciple with extraordinary talent is about to be born in the Qingquan sect," Guwen casually replied, then withdrew his gaze and continued writing. Shenzhen became curious and probed further, "How does he compare to Emperor Tianhong or Zhao Rushan?" As the millennia passed, the conflicts in the human world had neared their end. The enmity between Emperor Tianhong and Zhao Rushan was renowned across the world, both being the strongest prodigies of different eras. Now, as they clashed like water and fire, the world was curious as to who would emerge victorious in the end. "Perhaps even more so," Guwen said, with profound implication. Emperor Tianhong was an immortal god reincarnation, while the disciple mentioned was the reincarnation of Chaos Grudge Luo. Chaos Grudge Luo didn't seem to have reincarnated of his own volition. It seemed he was cast into the reincarnation of the celestial spirit great world by some powerful being, conveniently ending up in the Qianquan sect, which was certainly no coincidence. It appears that behind Tai Immortal Monarch or Profound Star Immortal Monarch, there exists an even more powerful presence keeping an eye on Guwen. Although separated by celestial Tao destiny, Guwen found it difficult to deduce. However, the other party didn't dare act rashly even when facing his pre-breakthrough self, so naturally, now that he has broken through, he would be even less panicked. If that's the case, the Qianquan sect is finally going to rise. Shenzhen commented without giving much thought, but rather with a sense of amazement. The Qianquan sect is thriving but too young compared to sects that have been around for millions, tens of millions, or even longer. In all aspects, it falls far behind. If it could give birth to a disciple with talent surpassing even that of Emperor Tianhong or Zhao Rushan, it might possibly close that gap. Having spent tens of thousands of years near the Qianquan sect, Shenzhen had developed feelings for it. Any Wuxia disciple visiting the Qianquan sect would be received as an honored guest, without any incidents of disrespect thus far. The leadership of the Qianquan sect holds Wuxia in high regard and dares not take it lightly. The Qianquan sect will rise eventually, sooner or later, and they will also fall eventually. Guwen said as he continued to write. He had even given up on the supreme sect, so he wouldn't be constantly sheltering the Qianquan sect. Shenzhen did not question Guwen's words but instead asked, if Emperor Tianhong were to return, would you really take him as a disciple? Guwen replied, I do not enjoy breaking my word. In the Taoist field of the beginningless, there were no major secrets to keep. The dojo itself could be moved or rebuilt. That Emperor Tianhong could kneel for so many years was enough to prove his character. What if he was an immortal god reincarnation? Perhaps Guwen could learn more about the celestial court from Emperor Tianhong. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 657. Unbeatable Emperor. 16 years later, a major event occurred in the Qianquan sect. A 16-year-old male disciple was unusually accepted as a disciple by the sect hierarch, with the intention of grooming him to be the next sect hierarch. This matter had the approval of the 4 grand elders, and various rumors spread within the sect and even to the entire world. This boy's name is Yuan Luo. He didn't originally have this name, but after his first qi absorption cultivation, he changed it to this name. During his first qi absorption, he successfully established his foundation, shocking the cultivator who was instructing him, and the news quickly reached the higher-ups of the Qianquan sect. Thereafter, Yuan Luo took only a year to condense a golden core, and at 16, he was already at the nascent soul realm, with a cultivation speed that was astonishingly fast. Yi Qingshan discussed for several days and decided to nurture Yuan Luo in the same manner as training a prodigy in the Tao court. They are determined to cultivate Yuan Luo to be comparable to Zhao Rushan or Emperor Tianhong, but in my opinion, they are relying on Wuxi's protection. Without Wuxia, raising disciples like this would only lead to a premature demise. An Exen spoke while standing next to Guwen, who was fishing by the edge of a lake created by the ghost mother of Ephemera, which was stocked with many nimble fish for his amusement. It doesn't matter. Whether we admit it or not, the outside world sees Wuxia as the pillar of the Qianquan sect, and indeed, we've done many things. Guwen said, staring at the lake's surface. As his cultivation level became higher and the years he experienced became more numerous, Guwen's mindset also transformed. He focused more on his own feelings. An Xian curiously asked, Master, what's the origin of Yuan Luo with such incredible talent? He must be the reincarnation of a great power, right? Yes, in his past life he was called Chaos Grudge Luo, causing havoc across many great thousand worlds. The previous calamity in the human world was caused by his power. He was likely captured by the immortal gods and cast into reincarnation, ending up in this plight. Guwen didn't hide anything, briefly explaining Yuan Luo's background. An Exen frowned and asked, actions of the immortal gods? Such a wicked entity reincarnated within the Qianquan sect, wouldn't there be some scheme involved? Guwen glanced at her and smiled, Indeed, there might be some hidden scheme, but such schemes have never ceased. If you can't see through them yourself, it means you're still not strong enough. Seeing him still able to smile, Xianxia knew everything was under his control. She couldn't help but ask, "Master, do you need me to do anything? Let nature take its course." Guan didn't say much more. He believed Xianxia would understand his meaning. After spending so many years together, the two had developed a high level of rapport, and some things didn't need to be repeatedly explained. Xianxia no longer talked about Yuan Luo but shifted the topic to Emperor Tianhong and Zhao Rushan. "I heard the Dao court plans to cultivate Zhao Rushan to become a Daoist emperor. Didn't you say a Daoist emperor must prove themselves on the path of the Great Dao? Could it be that Zhao Rushan is heading to the path of the Great Dao next?" Xianxia was very interested in the Daoist emperor, and wondered whether a Daoist emperor at the same realm could rival her immortal emperor's eye. "He is destined to go and is fated to become a Daoist emperor," Guan replied. When mentioning the Daoist emperor, he couldn't help but shift his focus to the path of the Great Dao, observing Ji Xiaoyu and Xiaolan. Search *the novel fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Ji Xiaoyu had been fighting for many years, and with his destiny forming, he was getting closer to becoming a Daoist emperor, while Xiaolan had also started to embark on the emperor road. After participating in the Daoist emperor's competition, their cultivation grew quickly, able to strengthen through battles. Xiaolan had already reached the divine thought true immortal realm, catching up with Tian Hao far off in the misty immortal court. Ji Xiaoyu was even assaulting the heaven-encompassing free immortal realm and, in terms of strength, he was now stronger than Yuan Songzi. After years of battling side by side, Yuan Songzi had successfully persuaded Ji Xiaoyu to join the Dao court. If she and Xiaolan succeeded, the Dao court would have two Daoist emperors, giving it the confidence to stand against the 3,000 great worlds outside the celestial spirit great world. Guan could hear the voice of Yuan Songzi's mind, feeling that his mood was far more excited than it appeared on his face. Ji Xiaoyu was cultivating and preparing for battle, and his next opponent was an unparalleled prodigy who had achieved 1,000 victories at the same realm on the path of the Great Dao, the unbeatable emperor from the primordial emperor domain. The unbeatable emperor ranked among the top 5 illustrious prodigies in the primordial emperor domain, and his momentum was extremely strong. Guan had already calculated the result of this battle and wasn't surprised. The original master of the immortal emperor's eye, the Stealing Heaven Emperor, came from the primordial emperor domain. This person founded the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect, even provoking the celestial court's pursuit, proving the terrifying extent of his Dao practice. The deep foundation of the primordial emperor domain was unmatched by the Great Thousand Worlds. "Master, do you think we need to foster a Daoist emperor in Wuxia?" Xianxia asked expectantly. Although Wuxia wasn't a sect in the conventional sense, as the senior disciple, Xianxia hoped Wuxia would grow stronger. "It depends on personal goals. I don't demand it. Although a Daoist emperor is indeed powerful, the path is very difficult." Guan spoke softly, with the memory of the Emperor of Eternal Life in him. He knew how arduous the path to becoming a Daoist emperor was. Looking at the disciples within the dojo, to be honest, he hadn't yet seen anyone with the potential to become a Daoist emperor, even Xiaolan, who relied on his covert protection while outside. If Xiaolan were to venture out alone, she would have died long ago. Moreover, he could sense that if he continued to aid Xiaolan, she would never be able to become a Daoist emperor, no matter how many times she won. The great Dao's will on the path of the great Dao is unfathomable. After listening, Xianxia fell into contemplation, vaguely understanding the implication behind Guan's words. At this moment, Guan's fishing rod moved, and he began to reel it in with effort, his arms trembling. Watching Guan struggle as if he were a mortal, Xianxia covered her mouth and laughed, thinking her master truly loved to act. In a bright palace, Ji Xiaoyu sat meditating in front of a blue crystal, the crystal reflecting her silhouette. Yuan Songzi approached, stopping in front of Ji Xiaoyu, hesitating to speak. With her eyes closed, Ji Xiaoyu asked, "Speak your mind, Ting Master." Yuan Songzi took a deep breath and said, Give up, your next opponent is unbeatable. Upon hearing this, Ji Xiaoyu opened her eyes, staring steadily at him. Yuan Songzi continued, I've investigated. The unbeatable emperor not only achieved 1,000 victories, but he also swept through the peers in the primordial emperor domain. A Taoist emperor once fought him at the same realm and was defeated. To defeat a Taoist emperor before stepping onto the emperor road, even if the Taoist emperor suppressed his realm, is still unbelievable. The mere thought of it filled Yuan Songzi with fear. He feared Ji Xiaoyu would not believe it, so he added, on the path of the great Tao, everyone believes the unbeatable emperor is destined to become a Taoist emperor. Your matchup, dictated by the Tao's will, is in misfortune. Avoiding the battle might mean wasted efforts, but at least you'll live. The struggle for the Taoist emperor is no child's play. 9 out of 10 losers die. Throughout the years, many prodigies have fallen at Ji Xiaoyu's hand. Unfazed, Ji Xiaoyu asked, Ting Master, have you ever considered that the path to becoming a Taoist emperor is cruel and cannot be filled with pushovers? If I give up this time, when I next reach this point, I will face another prodigy as formidable as the unbeatable emperor. If I always give up, what is the point of walking the path of the great Tao? To have the Tao's recognition, one must defeat the opponents selected by the Tao. These words made Yuan Songzi frown. He felt they made sense. Perhaps he had indeed underestimated the difficulty of becoming a Taoist emperor. Thinking that Shaolin might also face an opponent like the unbeatable emperor made him suddenly feel lost. Perhaps he had acted too hastily. Right now, the Tao court may not be able to nurture a Taoist emperor. Ji Xiaoyu looked at Yuan Songzi, smiling with high spirits, and said gently, Moreover, Ting Master, how dare you assert that I will certainly lose? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 658 The Power of the Emperor Clan. The day of the duel between Ji Xiaoyu and the unbeatable emperor finally arrived, with the Tao court's members trailing Ji Xiaoyu to a meteorite. Gazing around, the void was dim, with countless meteorites scattered across it. Above the Tao court's party, colorful splendors surged across the void's ceiling, illuminating it without diminishing its shadowy undertone. Ji Xiaoyu stepped into the void, while the others waited on the ground. Shaolin gazed at Ji Xiaoyu with concern. Having spent many years with him, Ji Xiaoyu had taken good care of her, even teaching her spells and divine skills. In her heart, Ji Xiaoyu was like a mentor. Knowing the power of the unbeatable emperor, how could she not worry for Ji Xiaoyu? The void was vast, silent, and oppressive. Although the unbeatable emperor had not yet appeared, this void was already filled with an immense sense of oppression. After Ji Xiaoyu distanced herself from the meteorite where the Tao court was, she stood silently in the void, waiting. A long time passed. Ha! A shout echoed through the void, disrupting everyone's thoughts. SAR the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Following that shout, more shouts arose, one after another, growing louder and more imposing, as if millions were roaring in unison, shaking the heavens with overwhelming oppression. Everyone from the Tao court tensed, their gazes directed toward the depths of the void, where a red radiance appeared, rapidly expanding. Shaolin squinted and saw an imposing figure, akin to a war god, striding out from the vast flames within the red radiance. The unbeatable emperor. He wore a dark red chain armor, with a red scarf around his waist, his trousers wide, billowing in the wind. His face was handsome but indifferent, and he wore a deep red coronet on his forehead. His long black hair danced wildly, his commanding presence threatening to shake the heavens and earth. He treaded on the red flames, moving with the grace of a dragon and a tiger, his aura seemingly distorting the void. Behind him, countless figures emerged from the red flames, each with an extraordinary aura. Although they remained silent, the deafening shouts continued to echo infinitely through the void. The Tao court's members looked on from afar, their faces grim, their hearts in their throats. Is the primordial emperor domain really this formidable? An elder of the Tao court muttered, his face full of shock. Yuan Songzi took a deep breath and said, This is but one emperor clan of the primordial emperor domain. The might of the primordial emperor domain is beyond our imagination. In the great thousand world, only a few great worlds can barely compare. These words fueled further fantasies about the primordial emperor domain among the crowd. Meanwhile, the unbeatable emperor raised his right hand, fiery flames gathering in his palm, forming a long spear, several times his own length, with a massive spearhead, as if a Qilin spat out the spear blade, surrounded by a divine beast's phantom, bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws. He looked at Ji Xiaoyu from afar and said, "Are you the reincarnation Dao Emperor? Bearing the name of reincarnation, do not disappoint me." As his words fell, he thrust his spear toward Ji Xiaoyu. A fiery line suddenly shot out, seemingly splitting the entire void in two. The red flame divine beast phantom roared silently before Ji Xiaoyu, the wave of chi force blowing through her long hair, revealing her cold and perfect face. Ji Xiaoyu remained silent, raising her right hand as rolling gray mist emerged from her palm, transforming into dragons coiling around her. An exceptional showdown between Taoist emperors was about to erupt. Yuan Songzi watched the unbeatable emperor, his eyes filled with fear. He could sense that the unbeatable emperor was still at the profound Yuan-free immortal realm, yet his aura gave Yuan Songzi, who was at the realm's perfection, a horrifying sense of impending annihilation. He felt that the unbeatable emperor could kill him with a single stroke. This filled him with dread for the unbeatable emperor and increased his concern for Ji Xiaoyu. At the Qianxia sect's main city, around the gigantic battle platform, hundreds of thousands of disciples stood on the stone steps, observing the fight on the platform. Guwen and his drinking buddies were also there, while an Xen was in the distance, sitting with the Qianxia sect's upper echelons. An Xen maintained a poised demeanor, not looking at Guwen, but dispassionately overlooking the combat on the platform. Yi Qingshan put down his teacup, turned to an Xen, and asked with a smile, "Senior, how is this child's talent?" Yuan Luo had just transformed into a divinity transformation realm and was battling a profound heart realm disciple. Between the divinity transformation realm and the profound heart realm lay the void crossing and fusion realms, and the Qianxia sect was not a mundane sect of the past. Joining without Nervan-level cultivation showed one was young and exceptionally talented. Even two great realms lower, Yuan Luo still had the upper hand. His talent was evident to the naked eye, even astonishing those disciples at the immortal realm. An Xen replied, "Indeed impressive, able to contend with any peerless genius in the world." Yuan Luo appeared only 16 or 17, still youthful, yet with one palm, he severely injured his opponent, rendering them unable to fight. Floating in the air, he looked up to the pavilion where the upper echelons were and loudly declared, "I want to challenge a higher realm." His words caused an uproar among the crowd. The observing disciples had not expected Yuan Luo to continue challenging, increasing their anticipation of him. Grand Elder Lin Chuan signaled with his hand, and a Mahayana realm disciple stepped onto the platform with a sword. Yuan Luo bowed to the opponent, then initiated the attack first. "This kid is so formidable, no wonder the higher-ups are promoting him so much," remarked one of Gu An's friends, prompting discussions among the other friends. Gu An was not surprised by Yuan Luo's performance. This child's mana was bound by his realm, yet his chi blood force was overly vigorous. Though appearing at the divinity transformation realm, he in fact rivaled Nirvana. While watching the spectacle, Gu An was also focused on Ji Xiaoyu's duel on the path of the Great Tao. Ji Xiaoyu was not a match for the unbeatable emperor. Despite giving it her all, she was unable to defeat him yet managed to wound him, surprising the unbeatable emperor and the great powers of the primordial emperor domain. Gu An would not assist Ji Xiaoyu to defeat the unbeatable emperor, as it held no significance. His goal was to ensure Ji Xiaoyu survived. In the final clash of divine skills, Ji Xiaoyu was defeated, her body obliterated, leaving only her soul, barely alive. At this point, the destiny she accumulated on the path of the Great Tao flowed entirely to the unbeatable emperor. "You are stronger than my previous opponents, and your understanding of the path of reincarnation is quite impressive. I think I won't forget you for a long time in the future." The voice of the unbeatable emperor resonated through the void, still fierce in aura, with the wounds on his cheeks making him even more imposing. Holding his long spear, he approached Ji Xiaoyu's soul. All around, the void was filled with smoke and clouds, remnants of shattered meteorites. Seeing the unbeatable emperor about to annihilate her completely, Yuan Songzi hurriedly flew in front of Ji Xiaoyu, urgently saying, "You've already won, so why push it to the extreme? Please grant her a chance to live." The unbeatable emperor slightly lifted his chin, looking down at Yuan Songzi with contempt, saying, "Since when did worms dare to obstruct a Taoist emperor?" In the distance, the great powers of the primordial emperor domain stepped forward, their boundless might suffocating Yuan Songzi. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 659. A palm transcending the great Tao. The words of the unbeatable emperor were like a series of thunderclaps, echoing endlessly, causing the cultivators of the Tao court to change their expressions drastically. Although they feared the unbeatable emperor, hearing his words still made them feel a great sense of humiliation, for Yuan Songzi was the master of the Tao court. Xiao Lan gritted her teeth, wanting to rush over and fight alongside Yuan Songzi, but was stopped by a female elder. "Don't act impulsively, don't burden the Ting master," the female elder said in a deep voice, her gaze towards Yuan Songzi revealing her uncontrollable unease. Yuan Songzi was insulted by the unbeatable emperor but didn't get angry. Following the unbeatable emperor's words, he said, "Since you consider us insects, why go to the trouble of stomping on insects? Not to mention the imperial clan behind, even if all of them attacked together, they would still not be a match for the unbeatable emperor alone. On this path of the great Tao, a prodigy not only needs personal strength but also a sufficiently strong force to support them." The beautiful dream that Yuan Songzi had was completely shattered at this moment. Ji Xiaoyu and Xiao Lan lacked the talent, and the Tao court didn't have the foundation to escort a Taoist emperor. Even if humiliated, he had to protect Ji Xiaoyu as much as possible because he knew very well that if they did nothing, they would also be doomed. The Tao intent of the great powers of the imperial clan had already sealed this void, leaving them with no escape. The unbeatable emperor's lips curled into a contemptuous smile as he said, "I am fulfilling her, losing on the emperor road, damaging the Tao heart, and leading a life of nothing but defeat. What meaning does it have?" His footsteps did not pause, and with each step, the killing intent grew stronger. When his words fell, the pressure brought onto Yuan Songzi reached its peak, making him unable to speak, only able to look at him in terror. "Spare them, I am willing to die." Ji Xiaoyu's voice came from behind Yuan Songzi, calm, without a trace of anger or fear. The unbeatable emperor's smile became wild, and he raised the spear in his hand, pointing its tip at Yuan Songzi, yet his gaze fixed on Ji Xiaoyu. He sneered disdainfully, "It's over. You're all doomed. Setting foot on the emperor road, you should have been mentally prepared. If not, then learn the lesson of arrogance." His right hand suddenly loosened. Boom! The long spear in his hand burst forth with a terrifying momentum, as if carrying a storm, unstoppably killing towards Yuan Songzi. Everything happened too fast. Even though both parties were of the same realm, Yuan Songzi had no time to react, only able to widen his eyes. When the spear stopped in front of him, his whole body froze, feeling as if even his divine soul was fixed in place, unable to move. He hadn't experienced such despair in a long time. Faced with the divine spear, he truly felt he was going to die, and there was no hope for reincarnation. His mind blank, he instinctively looked at the unbeatable emperor, discovering that he frowned. The cultivators of the Tao court were extremely tense, seeing Yuan Songzi not dead, hope ignited in their hearts, thinking that the unbeatable emperor temporarily changed his mind. Everyone's gaze was fixed on the unbeatable emperor. The unbeatable emperor frowned deeply, glancing in another direction. He yelled in a deep voice, "What master from where is interfering with me? A master?" The Tao court side was all bewildered, realizing the unbeatable emperor was not sparing them out of mercy but that there was other assistance. Compared to the extremely arrogant unbeatable emperor, They preferred the unknown helper. The cultivators of the Dao court were all excited, trying hard to restrain their emotions, not daring to breathe even a single breath. Xiao Lan also felt surprised, her heart filled with curiosity. Who would rescue them at this moment? Let people off when you can, besides, you have no enmity. A hoarse voice echoed through the void, causing displeasure to flash in the unbeatable emperor's eyes. When Ji Xiaoyu heard this voice, her eyes dimmed. Although he had changed his voice, she immediately knew who the owner of the voice was. She didn't want that person to see her so embarrassed. The unbeatable emperor did not respond, but the great powers of the imperial clan could not remain silent. Does fellow Daoist want to challenge the imperial clan? If fellow Daoist is this girl's support, why not appear earlier? Her destiny should not be like this. The passing by, why entangle in this karma? If wanting to save them, state your relationship, don't hide in the dark. With such cultivation, do you not know the rules of the Emperor Road? The dignified voices rose one after another, all very assertive, seemingly not taking the one who intervened seriously. Far off in the Qingkuan sect, Guan sighed. How many years has it been? It's rare to encounter someone so stubborn. Sir, the novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan, through deduction, knew the reason they wanted to eradicate was to prevent the secrets of the unbeatable emperor's divine skills from being exposed, leaving no threat for the unbeatable emperor's future. The reason was sufficient, but having intervened, would he still fight to the death for this reason? Ultimately, it's still too arrogant. Guan could see at a glance the source of this imperial clan. The strongest was no more than a Miao Zhen Daluo Immortal, and that was an ancient monster hidden for unknown billions of years. Having thought that, Gu An's gaze turned cold. Just then, a strand of someone's hair drifted in front of him. He raised his hand and waved, destroying the hair. The surrounding observing disciples were too excited, all discussing Yuan Luo's performance, and even his drinking and meat friends on his left and right didn't notice his actions. However, Gu An's wave was not casual. The mana of a Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal passed through the celestial spirit great world in an incredible manner, entered the path of the great Dao, then crossed layers of cosmic planes, arriving at the void where Ji Xiaoyu, Xiao Lan, and the others were. The questions from the imperial clan had not yet fallen, and the unbeatable emperor was still staring intensely at Ji Xiaoyu. The Dao court side was nervously waiting, with Yuan Songzi unable to recover from the earlier shocking experience. Suddenly, the entire void became bright, darkness was banished, and everyone instinctively looked in one direction, only to see deep within the void, it was as bright as daylight, with an incomparably majestic golden giant hand coming at them. Facing this golden giant hand, any existence appeared insignificant. The unbeatable emperor's face changed drastically. He was horrified to find himself unable to move. Not only him, but the other great powers of the imperial clan were the same, all seemingly petrified, dumbly watching the golden giant hand approach. Ji Xiaoyu's pupils widened, while Yuan Songzi and the cultivators of the Dao court were left open-mouthed. They couldn't move either, only able to see the golden giant hand getting closer and closer. As the hand neared, the outline of the golden giant hand could not fit into their vision. In front of such a giant hand, they only felt shock, their emotions indescribable. Under their gaze, the golden giant hand seemed to replace the void, lightly waving towards them. The wind from its palm blew, turning the great powers of the imperial clan directly into ashes. Even the unbeatable emperor gradually perished, his expression before death one of disbelief, seemingly not expecting such an end for himself. After waving the hand to annihilate the imperial clan, the golden giant hand became illusory, and the strong light it emitted gradually weakened. Yet the entire void remained in silence. All the cultivators of the Dao court still held expressions of astonishment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 660. A Lifespan of 10 Trillion Years. As the Emperor clan and the unbeatable emperor vanished into ash, the golden giant hand dissipated, the void gradually returning to dimness, while the people of the Dao court remained in silence, unable to awaken from their shock. The pure-hearted Xiaolon was the first to break the silence. She couldn't help but ask, what realm was the senior who acted just now? The legendary heaven-encompassing free immortal? The cultivators of the Dao court awoke one after another, starting to bow in all directions, expressing gratitude to the person who intervened. Yuan Songzi also came to his senses, loudly exclaimed, I am Yuan Songzi from the Dao court of the celestial spirit great world, grateful for the senior's assistance. I wonder what can we do for the senior? There is no such thing as a favor for no reason. Yuan Songzi reflected on his connections, unable to think of such a powerful entity. He could only ponder what the other party might want them to do. However, no one answered him. Ji Xiaoyu remained silent, sat down cross-legged on the spot, and began restoring her body. Meanwhile, in the Qingkuan sect, Guwen was occupied by a series of prompts in his vision. To deal with the Emperor clan, he used his own mana, not relying on avatars, thus he could seize life force, especially since the Emperor clan lacked celestial court destiny. Successfully captured 20,239,008,276 years of life from Emperor Changyuan, early stage of innate golden immortal realm. Successfully captured 809,244,623 years of life from Gudong, late stage of heaven-encompassing free immortal realm. Successfully captured 209,872,307,762 years of life from Emperor Hantian, middle stage of Hengtian golden immortal realm. Successfully captured 70,982,763 years of life from Qin Li, perfect innate golden immortal realm. Successfully captured 249,827,206,383 years of life from Ji Zun, middle stage of Taiqing golden immortal realm. Looking at his skyrocketing lifespan, Guwen felt agitated. No wonder those with reincarnation bodies couldn't resist the temptation of seizing life force. He now felt an impulse to go on a killing spree, but he knew he mustn't do that. Excessive slaughter and rapidly growing stronger would attract powerful entities far beyond his cultivation level to intervene. This time, attacking the Emperor clan was justified and wouldn't attract attention from beings surpassing Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal. The lifespans of these powerful figures within the Emperor clan varied. The strongest Taiqing Golden Immortal provided him with a lifespan not much higher than the Hengtian Golden Immortal, yet overall, it still yielded him substantial gains. The Emperor clan only had one Taiqing Golden Immortal protecting the unbeatable Emperor. Most others were heaven-encompassing free immortals and innate golden immortals, a total of several hundred. Your lifespan has surpassed 10 trillion years for the first time, starting a random lifespan function upgrade. Your life expectancy prediction function has been upgraded. Life expectancy prediction upgrade successful. Life expectancy prediction automatically detects causality. When a living being bears hostility toward your true self or clones, a prompt will appear. It automatically deduces causality. If someone's causality conflicts with yours, a prompt will appear. Using this prompt does not consume lifespan, but conducting a lifespan detection on the opponent does. Witnessing the prompts before him, Gu's eyes changed. Unlike the previous life expectancy prediction, this time the function covers his clones and can deduce causality. Deducing causality is quite domineering, implying potential enemies could be deduced. This function has both pros and cons. The advantage is identifying more enemies. The downside is the pressure of knowing enemies in advance, while the enemies remain oblivious and carefree. Of course, the most important thing is that his lifespan has broken through 10 trillion years. He can proceed to a breakthrough. Gu's mood became joyful. Once all the lifespan prompts ceased, he brought up the attribute panel for viewing. Name, Guwen, lifespan, 172, 971/14, 073, 593, 224, 087, Physique, Primordial Dao Creation Body, Cultivation Level, Middle Stage of Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal Realm. It's no wonder the Emperor clan. Guwen acknowledged the Emperor clan behind the unbeatable Emperor as indeed powerful. Tianqian Emperor will form a causal hatred with you, destined to become your enemy. Would you like to perform a lifespan detection on them? Sir the Ovalfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Ancestor Chuzi will form a causal hatred with you, destined to become your enemy. Would you like to perform a lifespan detection on them? Han Long will form a causal hatred with you, destined to become your enemy. Would you like to perform a lifespan detection on them? Another series of prompts emerged wildly, causing Gu An's eyelids to twitch. Indeed, the new life expectancy prediction is a double-edged sword. With so many potential enemies, if he checked each one, could his 14 trillion years of lifespan endure? Guan chose one by one for lifespan detection. Upon selecting a name, the lifespan years to be consumed would display, then he would confirm. He had no intention of consuming lifespan, but from the lifespan consumption prompts, he could gauge the strength of the enemies. The Emperor clan's greatest support was one major realm lower than him, so it wasn't worth using lifespan detection on them. Even so, this function could still reveal the Emperor clan's foundation to him. For a period following this, lifespan prompts repeatedly appeared. When Yuan Luo defeated the Mahayana realm disciple to the cheering of the audience, the prompts before him continued. The connections behind the unbeatable emperor were truly astonishing. Guan was secretly alarmed. Qianquan's sect's sect hierarch Yi Qingshan began to praise Yuan Luo, then spoke of the sect's millennial grand plan ahead, stirring the disciples' emotions. After the gathering, Guan politely declined invitations from companions for food and drink and left alone. On the other side, Ji Xiaoyu had restored her body, though her aura was weak and her cultivation level somewhat diminished. The cultivators of the Dao court surrounded her, their faces full of concern. Xiaolan couldn't help but ask, "Senior, how do you feel? How can we assist?" The pale-faced Ji Xiaoyu opened her eyes and said, "I am unscathed, but my path to the Taoist emperor has been completely severed. Unbeatable emperor's divine skills are indeed tyrannical. It will take me many years to completely dispel the power of his divine skills." Everyone felt their hearts sink, unable to accept it. They had traversed the path of the great Tao together for so many years, albeit thinking about the possibility of Ji Xiaoyu's defeat, seeing her fall in such a manner filled them with a sense of helplessness. The Emperor Road is indeed not something they can contend for. Yuan Songzi took a deep breath and said, "Return to the Dao court to recuperate." He looked at Xiaolan and said, "You have seen it too, the contention of the Emperor Road is fraught with peril. Before you are defeated, why not stop for now?" Xiaolan nodded lightly at his words. She too realized the vast gap between herself and Emperor Road geniuses and felt a bit worried for her brother Gu after being away from the celestial spirit great world for so many years. An elder couldn't help but sigh and said, "I wonder what kind of deity that senior was to directly annihilate the Emperor clan to save us. The path of the great Tao is indeed one mountain higher than the other, heavens beyond heavens." Recalling the fierce battle earlier, they still felt a chilling thrill and an inexplicable excitement. In my opinion, the Emperor clan brought it upon themselves, being overly arrogant. That senior perhaps didn't intend to destroy the Emperor clan, but these fellows gave no leeway and were too arrogant. A Dao court genius couldn't help but say, filled with admiration and fervor, "The golden giant hand will be the goal of his life pursuit from now on. Even if he cannot reach that realm in this life, he will cultivate in that direction. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 661, Perfection Realm. The feelings of the celestial spirit got after lamenting for a while, Yuan Songzi led everyone back to the celestial spirit great world. The journey ahead was long, and they dared not let down their guard. Soon, everyone fell into silence, each with their own thoughts. The image of that golden giant hand lingered in their minds, unable to dissipate. Even Xiaolan was reminiscing. This kind of power was too incredible. She must tell Brother Gu about it when she returns. Thinking of this, Xiaolan's mind was filled with the sound and appearance of Guan, eager to return home. On the other side, Guwen left the Qiankuan sect and went to an unoccupied mountain forest. At this moment, prompts kept appearing before his eyes. The number had already exceeded 1,000,000. Guwen suspected that it wasn't just the unbeatable emperor's karmic enemies, but possibly other types of karma as well. He patiently waited. Once all prompts were gone, he would find a place to break through all at once, reaching the perfect Taoist Great Luo Immortal realm. During the waiting process, he was also deducing. He could confirm that the lifespan predictive ability was stronger than his, but how much stronger was yet to be determined. Many names in the prompts were temporarily untraceable because there was no direct causality. How many people with the same name and surname existed? Even with lifespan prediction, Guwen did not intend to eliminate his enemies in advance because karma could change. Just because someone was destined to be an enemy didn't mean he should start a killing spree. The new lifespan predictions served more as a warning. The more enemies there were, the more cautious he had to be. The higher the realm, the easier it was to lose oneself in one's own power, believing one could do anything. Although Guwen was wary of many beings, he did not feel that his current life was suffocating. On the contrary, he felt happy with his life. He preferred playing in the human world within his own small domain to fighting. After waiting for an hour, no more prompts appeared, leaving Guwen feeling helpless. His karmic enemies numbered in the tens of millions, which was absurd. However, judging by the lifespan consumption, not many posed a threat to him. Guwen immediately performed the lifespan breakthrough. Even though he could go to the endless Tao mountain, he feared leaving traces and being discovered by unknown entities, so he cautiously used the lifespan breakthrough. After all, a round trip only cost 20 billion years of lifespan, which was a drizzle for him now. Safety was most important. Out of 9 prompts, Guwen chose to go to the Hongmeng Great World for his breakthrough, and his figure disappeared into the forest. As time passed, the sun gradually set. Night fell. The forest was still, echoing with the croaking of frogs. Guwen's figure reappeared. He was now perfect in the Taoist Great Luo Immortal realm, having consumed a total of 40 trillion years of lifespan for this breakthrough. Thanks to the Emperor clan, even with such a loss of lifespan, Guwen still had 100 trillion left. Next, he could begin to endure for 1 trillion lifetimes. Guwen did not intend to return to the Taoist field of the beginningless but rather to take a journey through the human world. Having achieved a breakthrough with difficulty, he naturally had to indulge. With the dim night, the forest was silent, the moonlight filtering through the gaps in the leaves, elongating Guwen's shadow. He walked while contemplating. Above the Tao extreme Daoyuo Immortal, what realm was there? After the Tao court and various major sects suppressed the internal turmoil, the dawn of peace in the world appeared. 1,000 years later, the human world returned to peace. The Emperor Tianhong, renowned and praised by the world, came to the vicinity of the Taoist field of the beginningless. In the forest where he had once knelt for tens of thousands of years, he gazed at the unchanging environment with a look of reflection on his face. After fighting in the mortal world for so many years and returning now, he finally understood what the supporting Tao sword venerable meant. He had gained immense fame, and even though he had left the Tao court, many major sects sought to recruit him. He could easily enjoy all the pleasures of the human world, and before returning, he did struggle with it. But more than temporary pleasure, he wanted to pursue the great Tao. He stood in front of the stream, waiting, looking back on the events of these years and those occasional fragments of memory. After waiting for an hour, Enzin's figure appeared on the opposite bank, startling the Emperor Tianhong, who quickly saluted her. An Exen with a cold expression said, "Come with me. From now on, you are a Wuxia disciple, and I am your senior sister." "Thank you, senior sister." The Emperor Tianhong responded, feeling excited. After so many years, he had finally become a disciple of the supporting Tao sword venerable. An Exen turned and left, with the Emperor Tianhong hurriedly following. Along the way, an Exen began to introduce the situation within the beginningless. She explained which disciples were there and what rules to pay attention to, and Emperor Tianhong listened attentively, not daring to neglect. When they stepped into the Taoist field of the beginningless, Emperor Tianhong clearly felt the nature's spiritual energy was suddenly different, even though the surroundings hadn't changed much. It was only when he emerged from the forest that he saw an incredibly beautiful mountain forest, a rare sight in the world. Every mountain was planted with various spirit flowers and spirit grass, creating a mesmerizing and beautiful spectacle that no painting could capture. An Exin ambled along the mountain path, without flying, compelling Emperor Tianhong to follow her pace. "Senior sister, is the teacher in the dojo?" Emperor Tianhong cautiously asked. An Exin, without looking back, said, "He's not here, but at the latest, you'll meet him the day after tomorrow." "Is there something urgent? Will I delay him?" Emperor Tianhong asked nervously. Such a great power as the supporting Dao sword venerable must be occupied with unimaginable important matters. In outer heaven debating the Dao with great powers? Or exploring the void of the great Dao? He has no urgent matters, just playing in the human world. Perhaps in past years, you encountered him, but he transformed into an unremarkable mortal, and you didn't recognize him. And Xin's answers surprised Emperor Tianhong greatly, raising concerns in his heart. He had to recall if he had done anything wrong in front of others. While Emperor Tianhong reflected on himself, Guan wasn't wandering in the human world. He was drinking with the celestial spirit god at the world gate. The two sat at a small table with spiritual wine and some human world dishes placed on it. The celestial spirit god had long given up mortal desires, but since Guan invited him, he graciously accepted. After drinking a bowl of wine, the celestial spirit god took the initiative to say, "Tianhao should have taken root in the misty immortal court by now. I can sense his cultivation level rising rapidly lately." Guan smiled. He indeed is doing quite well. After reaching the perfect Taoist Great Luo Immortal Realm, Guan could precisely calculate the karma of the misty immortal court. The court's destiny couldn't obstruct his gaze. He could see everything within and knew Tianhao had gained the recognition of an immortal mansion, fully integrating into the misty immortal court. The celestial spirit god nodded and then asked, "How do you intend to deal with the Tai immortal monarch and the 72 immortals of Jindong? Immortal gods can't be completely eradicated. One day, they will return to the celestial court or be discovered missing by it." Guan took the wooden token from his waist and placed it on the small table, jokingly saying, "After wearing it for so many years, I'm really not used to it. As for the Tai immortal monarch, let him continue to sink in the suffering of reincarnation. I will indeed spare them before the celestial court discovers them, but until then, I'll make them suffer a little." Even though it wasn't the first time Jindong's 72 immortals had been turned into wooden plaques, the celestial spirit god still felt amazed. Immortal gods were so fragile in Guan's hands. Sir the Ovalfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Even having pledged allegiance to Guan, he still didn't know Guan's cultivation level. The human world has already seen other immortal gods and chaos evil demons appearing. If this goes on, it will certainly lead to catastrophe. As a celestial god, how do you think I should get through this calamity? Guan asked the celestial spirit god. Perhaps it was an illusion, but although Guan sought advice, the celestial spirit god felt he wasn't that fearful of the celestial court. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 662. The difference between immortal gods. The celestial spirit god contemplated for a long time before saying, "There are only two paths. 1. You accumulate merit, benefit all living beings, touch the heavens, thus attracting the attention of the celestial court, and be rewarded with a place in the immortal class. 2. You abandon this great thousand world. Though the celestial court is strong, the great Tao is vast. Ultimately, there are places beyond the celestial court's reach. On the celestial court's bounty list, there are many powerful beings who have yet to be brought to justice." His answer left Guan somewhat dissatisfied. In short, isn't this just a choice between submission and escape? The celestial spirit god seemed to sense Guan's displeasure and continued, "Some of the celestial court's actions do indeed overlook all living beings, but the celestial court is not evil. In fact, the 3,000 great worlds still exist, and immortal gods rarely present themselves. This alone suffices to prove the severity of the celestial rules. Within any force in the world, there is good and bad, and there is no absolutely fair rule or order. The internal struggles within the celestial court are also significant, and the celestial emperor, who stands lofty, has been in seclusion for years, rarely emerging into the world. Over the endless years, countless purges have occurred in the celestial court. But no matter how the changes unfold, immortal gods will ultimately be ensnared by their interests. When longevity is no longer a luxury, besides power, all that remains for them is status. Actually joining the celestial court is not as unbearable as you imagine, nor will you lose so-called freedom. As long as you fulfill your duties, immortal gods can have plenty of personal time. Though he pledged allegiance to Guan, it was an act of desperation. In his heart he wished for Guan to join the celestial court. With Guan's abilities, rising to a celestial Dao immortal position higher than that of an immortal monarch in the future would be no difficult task. Guan smiled and said, "I do not reject the celestial court. I am just cautious about the unknown. After all, even you are unsure where exactly the celestial court is, or how deep its waters run." The celestial spirit god couldn't help but sigh upon hearing this. In the celestial spirit great world, he was a high and mighty celestial god, yet he had never even been to the celestial court and was part of its lower echelons, an unnoticed existence. Even if he violated the celestial rules or neglected his duties, the celestial court wouldn't deal with him in a short time, because the celestial court simply didn't care about him. With this in mind, the celestial spirit god also felt frustrated. He thought he took the wrong path back then. If he hadn't been obsessed with that immortal palace treasure, how would he have ended up in such a situation? Guan asked with a smile. "It said your talent is outstanding even among celestial gods. Don't you have any plans? Do you want to remain a celestial god forever?" The celestial spirit god shook his head and said, "Those who become celestial gods are all of extraordinary talent. Even if I give my best in cultivation, ascending would still require an exceedingly long time. I have a junior who is currently participating in the selection for celestial gods, cultivating in a celestial army. The celestial god is called Celestial Calming God. Do you know him?" Guan thought of Zhang Buku and thus asked. The celestial spirit god nodded and said, "I know him. He counts as my senior. He serves the Huang Feng immortal monarch, and among celestial gods, he holds a relatively high position. The lowest in rank are celestial gods like us guarding a great thousand world, whereas celestial calming god isn't confined to one place. He is akin to a god of destruction, and his range of activity covers the 3,000 great worlds." Mentioning celestial calming god, the celestial spirit god's tone carried envy. Guan gained a clearer understanding of celestial gods. Even among immortal gods of the same rank, the extent of power varies. The celestial spirit god opened up, starting to recount his experiences serving the celestial court. Memories related to the celestial court couldn't be confiscated, so Guan was also curious about his past. The universe was silent, distant stars dotting the sky. Guan and the celestial spirit god, drinking before the world gate, seemed unaffected by time as bowl followed bowl, perhaps a metaphor for the passage of time and the changes in the world. In times of peace, time passes more swiftly. In the blink of an eye, another 10,000 years have passed. The members of Dao Court who had ventured onto the path of the great Dao finally returned, causing a commotion in the entire sect. Xiao Lan and Yuan Songzi stood on high clouds, looking at the vast sea of people below, smiles on their faces. They finally returned. Returning from the path of the great Dao was an equally long journey, with endless hardships, and only at this moment could their tense minds relax. Seeing that Dao Court remained prosperous, the great cultivators of the Dao Court were full of relief in their eyes. CTH Novelfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Ting Master, Elders, I'm leaving first. My brother Gu is still waiting for me. Xiao Lan said this and then turned to leave, disappearing into the ends of the heavens and earth in the blink of an eye. Ji Xiaoyu's expression became unnatural upon hearing her words, but she said nothing. A female elder shook her head and laughed. This girl is still as infatuated with her lover as ever. Even after traveling the path of the great Tao and broadening her horizons, she remains true to her original heart. The other elders also revealed kind smiles. They all doted on Xiaolan, feeling she was like a child who never outgrew. Yuan Songzi's gaze landed on a figure below, who stood out with overwhelming aura, attracting attention even while amidst the crowd. Zhao Rushan. To have grown to such an extent, it seems a lot has happened over these years. Yuan Songzi mused. Ji Xiaoyu's failure on the Emperor Road, and Xiaolan's pause, made him realize that the Taoist emperor was still far from Tao court. Looking again at Zhao Rushan, he felt this person wasn't so remarkable, at least far inferior to the unbeatable emperor. Where exactly could the seed of a Taoist emperor be found? Yuan Songzi's thoughts drifted, his heart feeling a bit melancholy. Meanwhile, Guwen had already returned to Xiaolan's grotto heaven to wait, noticing Ji Xiaoyu's expression. He pondered how to help her. Failing on the Emperor Road, her cultivation level regressed, and her Tao heart was damaged. It was his first time hearing Ji Xiaoyu's heart sound so lonely. He could feel Ji Xiaoyu's pride, and precisely because of it, he felt this matter was difficult to handle. If only he could, like creating a Tao treasure, carve a path of destiny no less than that of a Taoist emperor. With this thought, Gu An's eyes lit up. This direction seems promising. Since he has ample time and doesn't need to engage in daily arduous cultivation, he might as well study different paths of destiny. Guwen began to contemplate in this direction. He first needed to understand the essence of a Taoist emperor. Not long after, Xiaolan's presence burst into the grotto heaven. She appeared out of nowhere before Guwen and hugged him tightly. Wonderful, Brother Gu, you're still here. Xiaolan held onto Guwen tightly, speaking with delight. She was so overjoyed she even shed tears. Don't be fooled by her carefree demeanor usually. In reality, she always worried in her heart. She was away for too long and was truly afraid of changes occurring in Tao court or Guwen reaching his twilight years. What are you saying? My talent may not be as great as yours, but am also diligently cultivating. Am not that easy to die. Guwen humphed, gently patting her back, feeling a little touched himself. In retrospect, he had countless separations with his junior sister throughout this life. He could foresee the future, but his junior sister could not. Worrying for the future was normal. It seems showing off some of his own strength appropriately, revealing a bit of the iceberg to leave her in awe, is necessary. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 663. Blaze a new trail after a long separation, their reunion was fiery with passion. Guwen and Xiaolan entwined for half a month before they finally parted. Xiaolan continued her cultivation, while Guwen switched avatars. His true self went to various places to harvest matured medicinal herbs. After he was done, he returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless. Walking along the mountain path, Guwen began contemplating the matter of creating a path. To create a path similar to that of a Taoist emperor. A Taoist emperor is an existence aided by great Tao destiny. In the same realm, a Taoist emperor's power of the great Tao is stronger, and they can also command the great Tao of the present environment to fight on their behalf. This gives Taoist emperors the ability to fight beyond their realm, making them invincible within the same realm. There are 3,000 great Taos. Different Taos can cultivate different Taoist emperors. On the path of the great Tao, cultivators competing for the destiny of a Taoist emperor can devour the great Tao destiny of their competitors, thus enhancing their own destiny, and transform the destiny of different Taos into their own without changing the essence of their own Tao. This suggests that there may be some rules judging the Taoist emperors. If a Taoist emperor relies on the power of the Tao, wouldn't allowing others to rely on their own power be considered a way out? As this thought emerged, countless ideas burst forth in Gu En's mind. He suddenly thought that the celestial court could also be such an existence. The heavenly court immortals leverage celestial Tao destiny, fundamentally similar to Taoist emperors, albeit the immortal gods are stronger. Could it be that the so-called celestial Tao was also created by an extremely powerful existence? Gu Yan's imagination ran wild, and he decided to test such an approach. To transform his own power into a cultivation system for Ji Xiaoyu to use. Providing such a method is not difficult and can be transmitted through the path of cause and effect. But mere borrowing pales in comparison to the Taoist emperors and the heavenly court immortals. Upon acquiring great Tao destiny, a Taoist emperor's cultivation speed increases, and the heavenly court immortals can rely on celestial Tao destiny to attain immortality. Guwen felt that to successfully create this, it would take a very long time. He did not feel discouraged by this. Instead, he was full of anticipation. Things that can be achieved easily are not worth expecting. A long time passed. Guwen returned to his courtyard, and besides Xinjin, an Xian and Emperor Tianhong were also present. The two were discussing something, and upon seeing Guwen, they immediately saluted. Master, Yuan Luo offended Zhao Rushan at the Tao Court's Genius Conference. I Qingshan fears for his premature death and wishes to send him to Wuxia for tempering. What do you think? An Xian was the first to speak. Guwen shook his head and said, the beginningless is not a place for fostering layabouts, and that disciple named Yuan Luo does not wish to train here. Upon hearing that I Qingshan wanted to send him to the beginningless, Yuan Luo not only resisted but also flew into a rage. In his view, the sect felt he would be killed by Zhao Rushan, which humiliated him, and he vowed to annihilate Zhao Rushan. The enmity between Yuan Luo and Zhao Rushan was not complex. At the Genius Conference, Yuan Luo shone brilliantly, and Zhao Rushan tried to recruit him, but his words implied threats, which displeased Yuan Luo. The two clashed, and with his fiery temper he even took the initiative to strike Zhao Rushan. One must know that Zhao Rushan is currently a chief disciple of the Tao Court, and barring accidents, he will become the next master of the Tao Court. Even though the Tao Court said nothing, offending the chief disciple of the Tao Court put tremendous pressure on the Qiankuan sect. Upon hearing Gu An's words, an Xian did not say much more. She vanished on the spot to negotiate with the Qiankuan sect. Master, I accompanied senior sister to the Qiankuan sect yesterday and met that genius named Yuan Luo. I feel Emperor Tianhong hesitated to continue. Guwen walked to the artifact refining cauldron, observing the Tao treasure inside, and casually asked, he's the reincarnation of a chaos evil demon, right? Emperor Tianhong's eyes widened in astonishment. You know. The things Guwen said to Shenzhen and an Xian were not spread to other disciples, so the true identity of Yuan Luo had not been revealed. Even though he had joined the Taoist field of the beginningless for thousands of years, Emperor Tianhong still did not know that Guwen was aware of this matter. After all, even you, as a heavenly court immortal, have been reincarnated. One more chaos evil demon isn't surprising, Guwen said with a gentle laugh. Emperor Tianhong fell silent. He gradually awakened part of his past lives' memories, knowing that he had an illustrious background in his previous life. He had confessed this to Guwen, who fortunately didn't mind. Emperor Tianhong is the reincarnation of a heavenly court star monarch, whose cultivation level should have been in the Taiqing golden immortal realm in his previous life. Although I don't understand why this world always attracts so many outer heaven existences, as your master, I do not wish to partake in the karma. If one day you wish to return, your master will not stop you. Gu An's words deeply moved Emperor Tianhong, and he quickly said, I won't go back. Silly disciple, once you fully awaken your past lives' memories, you'll know you'll definitely go back. Guwen laughed, knowing well that Emperor Tianhong would not betray his information to the heavenly court. Among the Wuxia disciples, even in Exin, no one truly knew how powerful he was, which divine skills he commanded, or even which great Daos he cultivated. If Emperor Tianhong could become a channel for him to express goodwill towards the heavenly court, that would be a welcome outcome. He bore no grudge against the celestial court, nor did he wish to create one. The conflicts with the immortal gods were out of necessity. Emperor Tianhong remained silent. Listening to his master's words, he realized he truly could not rashly make promises. By the way, Tianhong, do you want to become a Taoist emperor? Guwen suddenly asked. Upon hearing this, Emperor Tianhong quickly said, I don't want to. I just want to cultivate with Master. He hailed from the Dao court, naturally knowing about the Taoist emperor. Coupled with some memory fragments, he knew Taoist emperors to be very powerful, but he preferred to cultivate alongside Guwen. Intuition told him that Guwen was his greatest opportunity. Guwen turned to look at him and asked with a smile, if I open up a path similar to that of a Taoist emperor, would you be willing to step into it? Search * the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Emperor Tianhong's eyes widened with excitement. Of course, I would. If you pave such a path, Master, I am willing to be the trailblazer. Shenzhen, standing to the side, added, if you're truly going to open up a new path of cultivation, then I also want to join. She had faith not in the immortal gods nor the great Tao, but in Guwen. Guwen shook his head slightly and said, it's just a concept. Whether it will succeed is still uncertain. Despite his words, both Emperor Tianhong and Shenzhen were already beginning to dream. In a quiet palace, Ji Xiaoyu sat cross-legged on a prayer mat, cultivating. However, her brows were tightly furrowed, as if she was enduring pain. Suddenly, she opened her eyes wide and spat out a blood arrow. Her face turned pale, and her entire aura collapsed. Despair filled her eyes. Her cultivation level was dropping again. If this continued, she might fall back to the Taoist collection Freedom Immortal Realm, or even drop to the Mortal Realm. She couldn't tell if it was backlash from the Emperor Road or if the unbeatable Emperor's divine skills were still tormenting her. What kind of divine skill is this, that even the slightest leak of breath can make me lose? Is it possible he wants to conceal this divine skill by eradicating everything? Ji Xiaoyu fell into contemplation, recalling the divine skills used by the unbeatable emperor, which sent shivers down her spine. It was an aura of utmost evil. At this moment, a terrifying pressure enveloped the palace, causing her expression to change dramatically. She looked up to see a cloud of dreadful black gas appearing on the dim ceiling, within which a pair of terrifying eyes opened. The eyes were purple, resembling a pair of snake eyes, staring down at her. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 664. The strongest power. These eyes. Ji Xiaoyu felt a chill run down her spine, and she couldn't help but ask, you didn't die? Back then, it was with these eyes that the unbeatable emperor defeated her. As soon as these eyes opened, she was drawn into a strange illusion realm. In the illusion realm, she was besieged by multiple versions of herself until she was defeated. Even now, she could not comprehend it when she recalled the incident. What kind of divine skill was that, making her turn against herself? The battle within the illusion realm didn't feel like a hallucination, because afterwards, the injuries she sustained there manifested in reality. These mysterious eyes didn't answer Ji Xiaoyu, only stared coldly at her. Ji Xiaoyu sensed something was wrong. Her expression changed drastically. She instinctively tried to get up, but an unbelievably terrifying force suppressed her, preventing her from rising. The other party was probing her karma. He wasn't the unbeatable emperor. Ji Xiaoyu could feel that the oppressive force was much stronger than that of the unbeatable emperor. It was an unimaginable power. Even Guwen did not bring such a terrifying sense of pressure. Could he be the entity behind the unbeatable emperor? Investigating the cause of the unbeatable emperor's death? Ji Xiaoyu instinctively thought of Guwen, but in an instant, she focused her attention back on the figure before her. Were these eyes a bloodline heritage? She had heard from Yuan Songzi that the emperor clan, behind the unbeatable emperor, dared to take the title of emperor because they had nurtured many Taoist emperors. Cultivating so many great Tao emperors was beyond the reach of a mere Taoist technique legacy. The bloodline talent of the emperor clan must be extraordinary. Just then, the eyes closed, but Ji Xiaoyu did not relax, as the suppressive force was still there. A silhouette emerged from the black mist at the zenith, an elderly man in black robes, his white hair tied beneath a crown, exuding an extraordinary aura, with a coldness between his brows that sent chills down one's spine. His purple eyes seemed able to penetrate the soul, causing Ji Xiaoyu's heart to tremble. Ji Xiaoyu saw a shadow of the unbeatable emperor in him. This person clearly had some connection to the unbeatable emperor. The old man in black descended from the sky, landing in front of Ji Xiaoyu. He raised his right hand towards Ji Xiaoyu's forehead. Faced with such a dire situation, Ji Xiaoyu felt despair in her heart but showed no fear, instead staring straight at the old man in black. Cluck. A hand suddenly pressed on the old man's shoulder, the sound not loud, yet at this moment, it reverberated throughout the hall. The purple eyes of the old man in black widened suddenly, and Ji Xiaoyu saw the newcomer behind him, which made her expression complicated. Suddenly, the old man's soul flew out of his body, turning to face the figure behind his flesh, his eyes wide open, emitting a terrifying aura. However, nothing happened. The old man couldn't help but exclaim, "How is this possible? Who exactly are you?" His immortal emperor's eye was actually suppressed by the other party, unable to unleash its divine skill power. It was the first time he encountered such a situation. Even encountering an existence with a higher cultivation level, his immortal emperor's eye could cause trouble. Guwen slightly lifted his head, looking at the old man's soul, his expression indifferent. His right hand squeezed, forcibly pulling the old man's soul back into his body. Immediately, the old man's flesh rapidly shrunk, finally disappearing into his palm. Guwen's right hand tightened, then tucked it into his arms, as if he were holding a small trinket. This scene left Ji Xiaoyu momentarily dazed. With the disappearance of the old man, the pressure suppressing her also vanished, but she remained sitting on the cushion. The hall plunged into silence once more. Guwen looked at Ji Xiaoyu, suddenly at a loss for words, as the two stared at each other. Ji Xiaoyu regained her composure and asked, "Did you anticipate his arrival long ago, or did you notice him the moment he arrived?" Guwen replied, "Both. I keep an eye on you when I have nothing else to do." These words caused a subtle change in Ji Xiaoyu's gaze. Does he care about me? Thinking this, Ji Xiaoyu felt a little elated inside, though she did not show it on her face. CTH Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guwen could hear her inner thoughts, which boosted his confidence. He smiled and said, "Miss Third, do you have any grievances against me? Not visiting for years and going off on the path of the great Tao. If you came to me, I could surely grant you power stronger than a Taoist emperor." He still preferred to call Ji Xiaoyu Miss Third, as it reminded him of the past. "I can't bear such a title, and I'm no longer associated with the Ji family," Ji Xiaoyu replied, pondering how to deal with Guwen. She knew Guwen's words might be true, but she still didn't want to rely on him. Guwen sighed inwardly, she's indeed proud. With a wave of his right hand, a Tao treasure flew to Ji Xiaoyu and Guwen said, "This is a Tao treasure I crafted, called the Reincarnation Endless Map. It contains the path of reincarnation, capable of eliminating the residual power left by the unbeatable emperor." With that, he disappeared into thin air. Ji Xiaoyu looked at the Reincarnation Endless Map hovering in front of her. The map unfolded, filled with strokes and ink, resembling gloomy clouds, with nothing else visible. She raised her hand to catch the Reincarnation Endless Map, then let out a slight sigh. "He left so quickly. I wanted to ask him about the unbeatable emperor's divine skill just now," Ji Xiaoyu whispered with a sigh, her gaze landing on the Reincarnation Endless Map, her expression turning complex. Why hadn't she felt his dominance before? Forcing himself to help her like this. Elsewhere, Guwen returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless. He left quickly because he knew Ji Xiaoyu would inquire about the immortal emperor's eye. The eyes of the unbeatable emperor and the old man in black were indeed the immortal emperor's eye. Guwen was curious about this. The immortal emperor's eye was not tolerated by the celestial court, yet the emperor clan dared to cultivate it? No wonder they faced extermination. If the immortal emperor's eye were to spread, they'd face even more dire consequences. Guwen sat inside his chamber, lifting his right hand where the old man in black, now the size of a grain of rice, stood in his palm. At this moment, the old man still retained consciousness. Looking up at the gigantic Guwen, His eyes were filled with horror and despair. He roughly guessed what Guan intended to do but was powerless to resist, unable even to self-destruct. Why is this happening? Why does my immortal emperor's eye fear him so? The old man's mind collapsed with these thoughts, not just because he was facing death, but also because the failure of the immortal emperor's eye shattered his belief. Previously, he believed the immortal emperor's eye to be the ultimate power. This was the source of his confidence to come. It took him millennia, avoiding the celestial god, to infiltrate the celestial spirit great world, only to be captured immediately upon arrival, a conclusion he had never envisioned. Guan looked down at the old man, his eyes transforming as he unleashed the Calamity Absolute Eye, brutally searching through the old man's memories. In an instant, the old man's consciousness broke down, his immortal emperor's eye losing its luster. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 665. Unbeaten Emperor Ancestor. This black-robed elder is the greatest supporter behind the unbeatable emperor, known as the Unbeaten Emperor Ancestor. The title of Unbeatable Emperor is given to each generation's emperor successor in the Undefeated Emperor clan, which has seen many generations of unbeatable emperors. To obtain the title Unbeatable Emperor among one's peers is almost to secure the path of the Taoist emperor, and the reason lies in the immortal emperor's eye. Acquiring the title allows one to inherit the immortal emperor's eye from the unbeaten emperor ancestor. Even the undefeated emperor clan is unaware of the existence of the immortal emperor's eye. The clan members only know that the unbeatable emperor wields a taboo power that cannot be exposed, and they will protect this secret even at the cost of their lives. The immortal emperor's eye of the unbeaten emperor ancestor bears no greater karmic ties. He only witnessed the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect and the Stealing Heaven Emperor being suppressed by the celestial court, which made him wary of exposing the immortal emperor's eye. However, the power of the immortal emperor's eye is too formidable for him to relinquish. Over the years, in moments of despair, he mastered the immortal emperor's eye, thereby creating the renowned undefeated emperor clan in the primordial emperor domain. Now, with the cultivation level of the Miao Zhen Daluo Immortal, his cultivation reaches the heavens and the earth, remaining hidden behind the scenes while observing the rise and fall of the human world with a smile. If the unbeatable emperor and the other elite members of the clan had not been annihilated, he would not have acted. Upon realizing that the unbeaten emperor ancestor had no entanglement with the celestial court and even feared it, Guan suddenly changed his mind. Of course, the main reason was that the unbeaten emperor ancestor only had a lifespan of several trillion years left, and killing him would seize several billion years of life. But for the current Guan, life of several billion years was not that important. Perhaps the unbeaten emperor ancestor could create even greater benefits for him. Guan threw the unbeaten emperor ancestor into his Dao fruit universe. All Daluo immortals can develop a universe within the depths of their souls. Some Daluo immortals focus on developing the power of the universe. Previously, Guan tried to plant and harvest medicinal herbs in his Dao fruit universe but didn't gain life from it, so he had no interest in developing the Dao fruit universe. For him, the Dao fruit universe was more like a divine skill used to seal enemies and store treasures. The unbeaten emperor ancestor opened his eyes and instinctively looked around, finding himself in a dark universe. Suddenly, he seemed to sense something and quickly turned his head, only to freeze, his eyes widening with disbelief. A pair of golden red eyes stared at him in the darkness, and in front of these eyes, the unbeaten emperor ancestor felt an urge to submit. "Who are you?" the unbeaten emperor ancestor asked, his voice quivering. He could feel his immortal emperor's eye shivering in fear, an emotion he had never experienced before, intensifying his dread of the mysterious eyes ahead. "Regarding the death of your descendants, you should already know the cause and effect. Do you have any grievances?" Guan's voice sounded cold in tone. Even though the undefeated emperor clan had its reasons, ultimately they refused to relent. Guan did not directly destroy them. He advised first, and when they refused to heed, they had to face demise. The unbeaten emperor ancestor took a deep breath and said, "The strong vanquish the weak. What grievances could there be? I came because I did not recognize your strength surpassed mine. Before I die, I still wish to ask clearly, who exactly are you? Are these eyes of yours the immortal emperor's eye?" Since the fall of the stealing heaven emperor, he had never seen another pair of immortal emperor's eyes, leading to many speculations about Gu An's identity. He even suspected Gu An might be the stealing heaven emperor. "You guessed wrong. I have no connection with the stealing heaven emperor. Indeed, my eyes are the immortal emperor's eye. You should be able to sense that, even as both possessors of the immortal emperor's eye, the difference between us is significant, unrelated to cultivation level." Gu An's voice resonated, rendering the unbeaten emperor ancestor silent, filled with a strong sense of defeat. "Do you hate the celestial court?" Gu An's inquiry awakened distant memories for the unbeaten emperor ancestor. His immortal emperor's eye suddenly appeared, and he gritted his teeth, saying, "Yes, at this point, I have nothing to hide. The celestial gods of the celestial court killed my wife and children. This vendetta, I will never forget for eternity." The unbeatable emperor was generations apart from him. He held little affection for him, more of a familial duty to continue the lineage. But his wife and children were different. Even after such a long time, he could hardly suppress his hatred when he thought of them. Sar the Novelier. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The immortal emperor's eye of the stealing heaven emperor instigated fear in the celestial court, and when the celestial gods descended, unable to capture the stealing heaven emperor, the victorious stealing heaven emperor, filled with fighting spirit, even led the stealing heaven immortal sect to actively confront the celestial court, invoking the might of the court for suppression. In that battle, the primordial emperor domain was affected, leading to the tragic deaths of countless innocent beings, including the wife and children of the unbeaten emperor ancestor. His hatred stemmed from the fact that his wife and children were not casualties of battle but were sacrificed entirely by a wounded celestial god who needed chi blood from his entire city, while he happened to be outside the city and escaped, witnessing his wife and children's souls consumed by the celestial god. During Gu An's soul search, he couldn't clearly see the heavenly court's immortal gods, but he could perceive the situation at the time, albeit the immortal gods appeared vague. Now the celestial court's immortal gods were always plotting against him. Even when the celestial spirit god suggested the strategy to ascend to immortality through meritorious deeds, he continued to guard against the celestial court. The undefeated emperor clan was a power that could be drawn in. His absolute void eye had absolute suppression over the immortal emperor's eye, so he did not fear betrayal from the unbeaten emperor ancestor. "Swear your allegiance to me, and this causality shall be settled. Both of us being wielders of the immortal emperor's eye, we belong to the same camp. At least we will not be accepted by the celestial court, only suppressed by it." Gu An's voice sounded, and the unbeaten emperor ancestor wasn't surprised. When he saw the eyes of the other, he knew the person was not a celestial god of the celestial court. If he refused, he wouldn't just die, the entire emperor clan might face annihilation too. He had worked hard for many years and didn't want his efforts to go to waste now. In his eyes, the undefeated emperor clan was merely his weapon for revenge against the celestial court. However, the weapon wasn't strong enough yet. He needed to bide his time. Gu An, aware of his hatred and plans for the emperor clan, sought to subjugate him. "I can make your immortal emperor's eye stronger." Upon hearing Gu An's words, the unbeaten emperor ancestor's pupils shrank, and he immediately knelt, solemnly saying, "Greetings, my lord." Subduing the unbeaten emperor ancestor was merely a side chapter. After assigning him some tasks, Gu An let him go, continuing his peaceful life. Since the return of Yuan Songzi, Zhao Rushan began contemplating reaching the level of Taoist emperor. This plan had long circulated within the Tao court, and in past years, Zhao Rushan was unable to defeat Emperor Tianhong. He felt that only becoming a Taoist emperor could fully surpass Emperor Tianhong. However, Yuan Songzi did not agree to take him on the path of the Great Tao, making Zhao Rushan quite dissatisfied. Yuan Songzi's assertion that he wasn't ready felt humiliating to him. Why could a mundane woman like Xiaolon go, but he couldn't? Occasionally, when Guan went to accompany Xiaolon, he noticed Zhao Russian's maneuvers, as this fellow was secretly enlisting the upper echelons of the Dao court, with a mind even inclined toward rebellion. To this, Guan had no intention of intervening as long as it didn't affect Xiaolon. Time flowed rapidly under this backdrop, far faster than before, as the era of the primordial era also approached its end. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 666. Changes of the world. 200,000 years after the reshaping of heaven and earth, figures of both humans and demons have spread across the celestial spirit great world, and the celestial Dao destiny that shrouds the great world has also begun to change. Those great powers who comprehend the rules of heaven and earth can all sense that the fate of the world is about to enter a completely new phase. Time flies. It has been 100,000 years since Guan subjugated the unbeaten emperor ancestor. 100,000 years are enough to change the world, but only those great powers who remain in deep seclusion have not been affected. Now, the human world has a new landscape, with an imperial dynasty named Taiqian rising. Supported by many super sects from the human world, within 100,000 years, Taiqian has aggressively expanded, and although it has not yet completely unified the world, its momentum has shown everyone the aura of a world ruler. The relationship between Taiqian and the Dao court is somewhat tense. Their grievances are many, and it is difficult to discern who is right or wrong. In early summer of this year, Guan wandered with Emperor Tianhong within the Qianquan sect, watching the recent internal competition. After the combat ended, they went to an inn to drink wine. Name, Guan, lifespan, 283, 979/18, 947, 893, 809, 561. Physique, primordial Dao creation body. Cultivation level, perfect Taoist great Luo immortal realm. Without much fighting and killing, the increase in lifespan isn't very fast, but fortunately, it's steady. Guan is quite satisfied with this pace of increase. For the next million years, there will be no catastrophe in the celestial spirit great world, so his days will be very peaceful. He has achieved the cultivation level of the perfect Taoist great Luo immortal realm, and he can now consider factors beyond the cosmos in his future predictions. His foresight includes the influence of the 3,000 great worlds on the celestial spirit great world, a prediction ability far surpassing before. However, there are still unknown causes and effects he cannot factor in. Tianhao has already left the celestial spirit great world, and it is challenging for larger causes and effects to descend upon the celestial spirit great world again. While pouring wine for Guan, Emperor Tianhong curiously asked, "Master, recently a lot of mysterious talents have appeared in the Qianquan sect. Might this be your handiwork?" Guan replied, "I Ching Shan constantly begged me, so I had no choice but to recommend a batch of talents. This batch of talents is not simple. They are from the undefeated Emperor clan and would be considered top-tier talents even in the primordial Emperor domain. Coming to the celestial spirit great world, none are inferior to Zhao Russian." Guan first arranged for the unbeaten Emperor ancestor to deploy 20 people. These 20 have already established a foothold in the Qianquan sect. They are very happy to have come to the celestial spirit great world, for within the clan, they amounted to nothing, but here, they finally experienced the treatment of peerless talents. The most important thing is that it's the arrangement of the ancestor. Being able to serve the ancestor, they feel proud. Under the admonishment of the unbeaten emperor ancestor, these talents behaved very well, causing no trouble and actively making contributions to the Qianquan sect. Does Wuxia have other disciples? Emperor Tianhong inquired further. The 20 talents from the unbeaten emperor ancestor made a great impression during the Qianquan sect's competition. He felt their talent was not inferior to his own, which surprised him greatly. Guan shook his head and said, "It's just a bit of cause and effect with me." Seeing that Guan didn't want to elaborate, Emperor Tianhong stopped probing and shifted the topic to the millennium combat within the Taoist field of the beginningless. Every millennium, one-on-one sparring occurs within the Taoist field of the beginningless. In the last bout, Emperor Tianhong faced the Blood Prison Great Saint. He unexpectedly lost to the Blood Prison Great Saint. This frustrated him greatly. He had thought himself to be the second disciple of Wuxia, yet he was unable to defeat that seeming frivolous ox demon. However, considering the Blood Prison Great Saint was his master's only steed, he felt a sense of relief. Now he just wanted to know what divine skills the Blood Prison Great Saint was cultivating that were so domineering. Guwen answered, "Extreme Dao combat technique. It's a Taoist technique I created during my reincarnation. It's a technique distinct from divine skills, very difficult to cultivate, and even he has only barely entered the Tao." The Extreme Dao combat technique is a Taoist technique created by the Extreme, and among all the disciples, only the battle spirit of the Blood Prison Great Saint is qualified to cultivate the Extreme Dao combat technique. Hearing this, Emperor Tianhong mused deeply. He found that his master had many inheritances, and each disciple cultivated different paths, with no repetition, so he dared not ask his master to teach him the Extreme Dao combat technique. He believed the Taoist technique passed to him by his master was not weak, only he had yet to reach the grand achievement to unleash its true power. After this internal competition ends, do me a favor by going down the mountain to Taiqian, find someone and teach him the method of cultivating immortality, and give him a new name, Tai. Guwen looked at the street outside the window and said softly. As he spoke, he handed Emperor Tianhong a jade pendant, which would guide Emperor Tianhong to find that person. Emperor Tianhong took the jade pendant and asked, "To what extent should I teach him, and do I need to bring him back?" Guwen replied, "It's up to you, at least ensure he has the power to defend himself. There's no need to bring him back, nor should you take him as a disciple or reveal the name of Wuxia." This instruction made Emperor Tianhong even more interested in that person. The internal competition of the Qiankuan sect will last several months, as the sect's establishment is vast, with many talented disciples participating. The final 30 winners will go to the Tao court together to compete in the Magic Battle Conference, which symbolizes the highest talent in the world. The Millennial Heavenly Pride Magic Battle Conference is regarded as the most premier event between heaven and earth, and the rivalry of talents will bring unimaginable benefits to the sects backing them. It is truly a case of one person achieving Tao, elevating everything related to them. After the Qiankuan sect's competition ended, Emperor Tianhong set off. Guwen, however, went to the hidden spirit palace under the sea. Chen Chuan's parents, Su Ling and Chen Luo, had long departed, and they joined Chen Chuan to develop the sword sect together. Without further curses, Guwen naturally paid less attention to them. Even though Chen Chuan was Xiao Chuan's reincarnation, Guwen had already given enough care to his parents, with no need to keep watching all the time. The hidden spirit palace was desolate, with arrays of medicine gardens planted in front of the palace. The distribution was simple, and the colors pieced together gave off a bizarre sense of beauty. The deep sea dragon carp opened its eyes and saw Guwen harvesting medicinal herbs. It immediately stood up. Saw the Ovalfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Now it had the cultivation of a divine immortal of wondrous dharma. Its temperament had become more mature than before, yet in its simple white robe with long hair reaching the ground, it still exuded a feminine grace. Although it still had the appearance of a feminine grace outwardly, it already understood the difference between genders. After cultivating in the hidden spirit palace for more than 200,000 years, it also harbored greater ambitions in its heart. "Master, when will you let me adopt a few disciples to relieve my boredom?" The deep sea dragon carp came beside Guwen, asking cautiously. Since Chen Luo and his spouse left, it felt lonely, often having no one to talk to. Guwen ignored its sigh, knowing well what it was thinking, and said, "Once you reach the Zizai Immortal realm, I will permit you to travel for 1,000 years to personally select and bring back 9 disciples." Zizai Immortal? The deep sea dragon carp's expression changed slightly, indicating it might take another 1,000,000 years? But thinking about its grand ambitions, it felt that even achieving the cultivation of the Freedom Realm was far from enough, and being able to cultivate 9 disciples in the Zizai Immortal Realm would greatly aid its future vast undertaking. "Thank you, Master." The deep-sea dragon carp immediately bowed, thanking Guan. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 667. Taiwei Divine Court. Guan did not look at the deep-sea dragon carp. He continued to pick the medicinal herbs. His heart was filled with emotion. As the disciples' time in cultivation grows longer, their hearts too begin to nurture ambitions. This is quite normal, for cultivation is indeed pursued with some goal. Guan would not restrain the disciples for a lifetime. With his promise to the deep-sea dragon carp, the fate of the deep-sea dragon carp changed. Long in the future, he would unify the ocean demon clans of the celestial spirit great world, even transform into a dragon, establish the Dragon Palace, and would engage in an epic-changing battle with the immortal cultivation realm on the continent. Seeing scenes of the future, Guan did not think it was a bad thing. Such conflicts are the choice of heaven and earth. Without the deep-sea dragon carp, someone else would do it. He could not claim that all wars are absolutely evil. It is worth mentioning that when that great calamity comes, the deep-sea dragon carp will also face a Wuxia disciple, only that the two sides do not know each other. The deep-sea dragon carp did not know that Guan was peering into his future, and he meticulously followed Guan, narrating his recent cultivation confusions, which Guan addressed one by one. His upbringing of the deep-sea dragon carp was not inferior to that of the Wuxia disciple. After all, the deep-sea dragon carp had been independently managing the medicine garden of the hidden spirit palace with great merit. The deep-sea dragon carp was in the realm of the divine immortal of wondrous Dharma, while the disciples within the Taoist field of the beginningless had the lowest cultivation level also being in the divine immortal of wondrous Dharma realm. Among them an Exen and the blood prison great saint had already crossed into the Tao void profound immortal realm, reaching the divine thought true immortal realm. Although their strength could not yet be considered great, Guan was still satisfied with their growth speed. After all, not everyone could be as favored as him. Even the most exceptional talent requires a long time to accumulate cultivation. Under the magnificent blue sky, the mountains stretched continuously, with celestial giant trees rooted, towering over the surrounding majestic mountains, and there was more than one such tree. Beneath the giant tree, thousands of cultivators gathered together, and even with so many people together, the diameter of the occupied area was still far less than the width of the main trunk of the giant tree. Once the Holy Heaven Reincarnation and the former Lord of the Heavenly Spirit Great Heaven and Earth Holy Court, Zhu, she stood among the crowd, listening to the person speaking at the front. The Divine Court is domineering, controlling the life and death of all living beings under heaven, and the cycle of reincarnation is at their command. The land upon which all beings dwell is divided by them. Those expelled by the Divine Court must leave the Taiwei Great World, but outside the Taiwei Great World lies a dark forbidden zone, with countless evil demons and ghosts lurking, waiting to swallow living spirits. We, imprisoned here, have nothing to await but exile. Zhu, wearing a blue and white form-fitting robe, with her hair tied casually, exuded a demeanor of a chivalrous lady from the martial world. Listening to the speech, her thoughts drifted away, a wry smile appearing on her face. She was originally venturing in another great world. Having awakened her origin divine soul, she was already a profound yuan-free immortal, having re-established her own sect. Due to sectarian struggles, she was jointly targeted by the local major sections. In the midst of chaotic fighting, she deployed a secret technique, shattered the void, and escaped into the chaotic stream of the Great Tao. Upon awakening again, she found herself in the Taiwei Great World. Just as she was about to acquaint herself with the new world, a group of cultivators descended from the sky, declaring her an outsider adventurer who must be detained, and thus she ended up here. This little world is the detention ground of the Divine Court, housing countless living beings, even those far exceeding her cultivation, and quite a few at that. She wandered this place aimlessly until someone recruited her, inquiring if she wished to escape to safety. Having ventured through numerous worlds, Zhu deeply understood that one's fate must be grasped in their own hands and could not sit idly by waiting for doom, and thus she came along. surrounding thousands, with the lowest cultivation level being the Zizai Immortal realm, and the speaker's Dao practice being deep and unmeasurable, reminiscent of the type of adversary she faced when departing the celestial spirit great world. Even if my master were here, his Dao practice might still not be as profound as his. How terrifying a level of cultivation to be suppressed by the divine court! How formidable must this divine court be? She pondered alarmed, and thinking of her master made her feel a bit desolate. Parting for over 200,000 years, she could not find her way back to the celestial spirit great world and felt as though she might never return in this lifetime. Only after leaving the celestial spirit great world did she realize how magnificent the great Tao was. Because of this, her heart embraced even grander aspirations. She wanted to restore the holy court, to elevate it to an existence surpassing the 3,000 great worlds. For now, she had to find a way to escape this place. The more perilous the situation, the more she felt she could encounter great fortunes. This Taiwei great world surely harbors great fortunes beyond her imagination. Search * the Oval Fire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Do you suppose what his cultivation level might be? A voice suddenly reached Zhu Zai's ears, causing her to turn her head. A handsome man came beside her, his face smiling, in stark contrast to the grave expressions on the faces of those around. How high? She inquired. The handsome man smiled and said, he is an innate golden immortal, above the heaven-encompassing free immortal. Zhu Zai's pupils suddenly dilated. In the previous great world, she had heard of the legends of innate golden immortals, and she never expected to encounter one in a place like this. The handsome man continued, in this place, there are dozens of innate golden immortals. Do you know the realm of the divine court cultivator guarding this place? What is the realm? That one's realm is the heaven-balancing golden immortal realm, above the innate golden immortal, with 100 innate golden immortals under him, suppressing this place, while within the divine court, the heaven-balancing golden immortal is far from the summit. His words made she furrow her brows tightly, feeling a sense of despair. With such a vast gap in cultivation, how could she escape? No matter how it seemed, the upcoming actions of this group would all result in failure. The handsome man looked at Zhu and said with a faint smile, I have a way to get you out of here. Zhu frowned, cautiously asked, we are strangers. Why are you assisting me? The handsome man grinned, you bear the karma of the celestial court. It seems you are related to some celestial being from the celestial court. Zhu Zai's brows knitted even tighter. Don't overthink it, I was planning an escape anyway. Seeing you have such karma, I'd take you along. The handsome man shrugged, wearing a carefree smile. Zhu deliberated and thought it prudent to first test him, so she said, I am called Zhu, and may I know your honorable name, fellow Taoist? The handsome man replied, I am named Meng Lang. Meng Lang? Such a common name. Zhu had encountered many bearing this name in various places. She glanced around, puzzled, and asked, it seems others can't hear our conversation? The handsome man named Meng Lang smiled, naturally. Since we are conspiring to escape, how could it be broadcast? What do you intend to do? Are you also a heaven-balancing golden immortal? Zhu looked intently at Meng Lang, seriously asking. Meng Lang shook his head, a heaven-balancing golden immortal, possessing vast divine skills, I am not. Zhu pursued, then are you an innate golden immortal? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 668 Trace of the Immortal Gods. It's not an innate golden immortal either. Meng Lang replied, causing Zhu Zai's brow to furrow again, feeling a bit disappointed. The reason she didn't guess above the heaven-balancing golden immortal was because such a transcendent existence couldn't possibly be trapped here. She stared at Meng Lang, hoping he could convince her. What reliance did Meng Lang have that made him think he could help her escape? If he didn't explain clearly, she wouldn't follow Meng Lang. Meng Lang looked ahead, where an innate golden immortal was still passionately speaking, stirring the blood of those present. filling their hearts with high spirits and determination. Rather than waiting to die, it's better to fight desperately. The Taiwei Great World is really deep. Meng Lang, who is actually Guan, thought to himself. Guan, having foreseen in the celestial spirit Great World that Zhu Shi was in trouble, came to assist her. He transformed into Meng Lang to avoid getting too involved in karmic entanglements. After arriving in the Taiwei Great World, Guan discovered that several Daluo immortals were hidden within this great world, and even some of the world's karma was too profound to calculate. He had heard before that among the 3,000 great worlds, a few had foundations far exceeding other great thousand worlds, and he realized today that it was true. This innate golden immortal had already set up a formation, thinking it would isolate prying eyes, facilitating the stirring of hearts, but little did he know, a Taiqing golden immortal was watching him at this moment. Yes, not a heaven-balancing golden immortal, but a Taiqing golden immortal standing above the heavens, toying with 2 pearls in his hand, his expression so cold, and his eyes reflecting the scene of Zhu Shi and others gathering together. If Guan didn't intervene, Zhu Shi would follow these people to escape, only to be caught by the Taiqing golden immortal, brought back to the dojo, and finally refined into a ghost artifact. Moreover, Guan felt the presence of an immortal god in the depths of the divine court in the Taiwei Great World, stronger than the Tai immortal monarch, forcing him to speculate about the relationship between the Taiwei divine court and the celestial court. If you don't make it clear, I can't go with you. Who exactly are you, and what backing do you have to help me? Zhu Zai's voice interrupted Guan's thoughts. Guan smiled and said, "Don't ask so much, just watch." Zhu Shi frowned upon hearing this. Just as she was about to say more, the speaking innate golden immortal suddenly burst forth with a strong momentum, drawing her attention. Everyone, once the escape plan is confirmed, it should not be delayed. We can kill our way out right now. I will open up a tunnel, but it's uncertain where this tunnel will lead. Most likely, it will lead inside the divine court, and we'll have to improvise afterward. The innate golden immortal said while casting spells, drawing circles with his hands, and a black hole appeared in front of him, rapidly expanding, surrounded by intertwining time-space lightning, its darkness making one shiver, appearing so terrifying. Once the black hole stabilized, he entered it first, followed closely by others. Some hesitated, but seeing those ahead entering, they gritted their teeth and followed. Zhu Shi was about to ask Guan, only to see Guan follow too. This made her feel absurd. Was this person's plan to follow these people? Then what was the meaning of everything he said before? Without him, she would have followed too. Zhu Shi cursed a few words in her heart and also chose to follow. She came behind Guan, staring at his back with an unfriendly look. If looks could kill, Guan would probably have turned to dust by now. The two stepped into the black hole one after the other. As soon as they entered the black hole, Zhu Zai's vision was swallowed by darkness, and even her divine sense couldn't see, but fortunately, she could feel the surge of spiritual energy, and she could also hear Guan's footsteps ahead. Is this your plan? Without you, I would have followed him. Zhu Shi said through gritted teeth, her tone very displeased. Guan's voice followed. The real trouble starts after we get out. Without me, you will undoubtedly die. These words left Zhu Shi uncertain and apprehensive. She could only hold her confusion in check and remain vigilant. She didn't completely trust the leading innate golden immortal either, just had no choice but to follow under such desperation. They moved quickly, and Zhu Shi clearly felt the spiritual energy along the way growing richer. This indicated they were getting closer to the exit. Zhu Shi grew more nervous, beginning to imagine what they might encounter after escaping. A while later, light finally appeared ahead, and Zhu Shi heard the voices of the people around her, most of whom felt pleasantly surprised, not expecting to truly escape that suppressed place. As the light in front grew brighter, Zhu Shi gradually saw Guan's back. For some reason, she felt a sense of déjà vu, as if she had seen this person's back somewhere before. Soon, she followed Guan into a bright light, her divine sense instantly recovered. She sensed the people ahead stopping all at once, and she also halted her steps. She opened her eyes and looked ahead, her face instantly freezing. Not just her, the other escaping individuals also looked forward in disbelief. Ahead was a vast and boundless forest, like another world, only everyone's gaze was focused above the forest. Above the sea of clouds, countless figures in purple armor stood on the clouds, each holding a divine weapon. Sweeping the eye over them, one couldn't count how many there were. The vast army exuded a suppressive momentum. The leading innate golden immortal's face turned ashen, as if he hadn't expected so many enemies waiting outside. "Your Highness, you are the crown prince of the divine court. Why commit treason?" A voice rang out across the heavens, causing a commotion among the escapees, who hadn't expected this innate golden immortal to be the crown prince of the divine court. She frowned deeply, feeling only dread. Clearly, she had been swept up in a larger karma, where if she hadn't been incited earlier and stayed in the place of guardianship, she wouldn't be facing such trouble now. The innate golden immortal took a deep breath, stepped forward, and shouted loudly, "General Zhu, you are the eternal divine general of the divine court, protecting the great world many times, and all living beings revere you. But now the divine court has become a lapdog of the immortal gods. In the last 1,000,000 years, how many innocent lives have been lost to the divine court's offerings to the immortal gods? Can you really remain indifferent? That immortal god is insatiable, enlarging ambitions step by step, and one day will set eyes on the foundation of our divine court. We cannot gamble." These words made the escapees even more uneasy. How could it also involve the immortal gods? Even in the Taiwei Great World, immortal gods were nothing but elusive legends. They, like Zhu Shi, felt things had become extremely perilous, involving the crown prince of the divine court and the immortal gods, meaning what awaited them was likely an irreversible disaster. Zhu Shi turned to look at Guan, noticing not a trace of tension on his face, which only piqued her curiosity even more about how this person planned to lead her out. Could it be related to that immortal god? Sar the novel, NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. From what the divine court crown prince said, that immortal god seemed very malevolent, but to Zhu Shi, an outsider, the good and evil of this realm were temporarily irrelevant. She just wanted to escape. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 669. The Struggle of the Celestial Emperor. As the words of the divine court crown prince fell, a magnificent figure emerged above the vast army in purple armor on the clouds, appearing ethereal in the sunlight, like a mirage. General Zhu. He stood high above, overlooking the world, wearing heavy and majestic red armor. His face was solemn, and his brows resembled two flames. His long hair coiled beneath the divine crown, and 7 giant swords radiating different divine lights hovered behind him in a fan shape, as if 7 divine powers stood behind him. Before General Zhu, Zhu Shi and the escapees felt a deep sense of awe. Some couldn't withstand the pressure and fell to their knees directly. General Zhu's right hand was half raised, playing with 2 beads in his palm, like 2 stars squeezing together, shaking the soul. "Crown Prince, how dare you slander the immortal gods and question the divine court? If His Majesty knew this, imagine his heartbreak." General Zhu's voice rang out, and as his words ended, a vertical eye suddenly opened on his forehead, shooting a terrifying red beam at incredible speed down from the sky. Everything happened too quickly, so fast that the divine court crown prince had no time to react. Boom! The red light struck the divine court crown prince, and the dreadful impact blew the escapees away. Some attempted to flee, but the tunnel created by the divine court crown prince had vanished. Just as the escapees tried to leap up, an unimaginable pressure pinned them down, forcing them to their knees. Howling winds, scattered debris, and forests were swept away, resembling the arrival of the apocalypse. Zhu Shi was pushed to her knees, struggling to lift her head, her pupils trembling in fear. Such terrifying suppression. She couldn't imagine how terrifying it would be if the opponent went all out. The red light dissipated in front, leaving only a white skeleton of the divine court crown prince, trembling precariously, eventually collapsing on the ground. This scene filled the thousands of other escapees with despair. If even the divine court crown prince had to die, how could they survive? High above, General Zhu's expression was indifferent, as if he had not killed the divine court crown prince, but merely an insect. The countless divine soldiers in purple armor, also expressionless, heightened the air of despair in the land. General Zhu opened his right hand, letting the 2 beads fall, releasing a dazzling light as they descended, dimming the world. The intense light fell, and she couldn't help but turn to Guwen beside her, gritting her teeth and asking, "Didn't you say you have a way?" Guwen glanced at her, a corner of his mouth curving up. His smile appeared arrogant in Zhu's eyes, seeming crazily out of place at this moment. She couldn't understand why this person could still smile as scorching air waves descended from the sky, making her mind go blank for an instant. Boom! The ground erupted with a world-shaking explosion. Countless trees flew like confetti, the divine soldiers of the court coldly overseeing everything. General Zhu's expression shifted, greed flashing in his eyes. Under the dusk, lying on the ground, she suddenly opened her eyes. Bloodshot filled her view as she gasped heavily, as if waking from a nightmare. She sat up immediately, seeing Guwen's figure beside her. Guwen sat on a nearby empty ground, a fire burning in front of him, holding a mirror in his hand, as if admiring his reflection. She gathered her thoughts, instinctively looking around, finding herself on a cliff, distant mountains stretching endlessly, the ridges draped in afterglow, beautifully desolate. Did we escape? She looked at Guwen, asking nervously. Guwen gazed at the 7-star mirror in his hand, saying, "Yes, we escaped, but we're still in the Taiwei Great World." The 7-star mirror, after his modifications, was now a Dao treasure, reflecting images of the human world in the Taiwei Great World on its surface as he spied on it. Hearing his words, she sighed in relief, standing up, bowing to Guwen in gratitude for saving her life. "Senior, I have things to attend to, so I'll take my leave." She turned and left after saying this. "Don't you want to become stronger?" Guwen's voice came, halting Zhu's steps. She turned back to look at Guwen, her eyes complex. Guwen still did not look at her, his gaze fixated on the 7-star mirror. Sar the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Celestial Spirit Great World, Xianxia sect. In the early morning, Guwen and the Celestial Spirit God walked down the street, appearing to be strolling, yet discussing grand matters of the Great Thousand World. "I learned from my dear friend that the atmosphere in the Celestial Court is strange, reportedly involving the struggle for the Celestial Emperor's position, with countless unimaginable forces scheming secretly, even reaching the Celestial God level." The Celestial Spirit God said gravely, under Guwen's suggestion, he began to deepen relations with other celestial gods, with his mentioned dear friend coming from the misty Immortal Court. Guwen, browsing the roadside stalls, asked, "Does it involve Tian Hao?" Previously, the Tai Immortal Monarch and Profound Star Immortal Monarch seemed to have targeted him. The Celestial Spirit God shook his head, saying, "Even in his past life, Tian Hao was far from capable of competing for the Celestial Emperor's position. Not to mention him, even immortal monarchs are infinitely distant in rank from the Celestial Emperor, and this struggle won't erupt immediately. It is likely to simmer for a long time, eventually affecting even the Great Thousand Worlds." Though not very knowledgeable about the Celestial Court, he knew what the Celestial Emperor symbolized. It was the highest position and power, representing the strongest of the heavenly Tao. Speaking of which, I discovered an immortal god in the Taiwei Great World, he with the divine court. Guwen recounted his experiences in the Taiwei Great World, 100 years since rescuing Zhu Shi, now accompanied by his avatar. Besides spying on the human world through the 7-star mirror, he occasionally wandered the human world in the Taiwei Great World. The divine court continually recruited divine disciples everywhere, with mortal recruits being severed from family ties forever. Some families received compensation, while others were forcibly enlisted. Guwen saw these divine disciples being sent into a gigantic pill furnace, which was concocting some elixir, yet unfinished to this day. This was probably what the immortal god sought, with the divine court offering tributes for 1,000,000 years. In those 1,000,000 years, countless mortal spirits had been sacrificed to the pill furnace, yet no elixir had emerged, piquing his curiosity about the pill's origins. He also shared this with the celestial spirit god, hoping for an explanation. The celestial spirit god frowned, saying, "Using living spirits for alchemy isn't unheard of, but I don't know what specific elixir that immortal god is concocting. Yet for it to remain incomplete for so long, it's probably related to the struggle for the celestial emperor. The Taiwei Great World is among the top in the 3,000 great worlds. I suspect other great thousand worlds are also doing the same." He didn't condemn the immortal god's actions, instead feeling more worried. He understood the style of the immortal gods. Immortal gods would indulge evil, yet not leave traces. This meant the Taiwei Great World was doomed to destruction. If such situations arise in many great thousand worlds, eventually, the 3,000 great worlds might be destroyed, and the celestial court will recreate the 3,000 great worlds. The celestial spirit god's face was extraordinarily grave, his words altering the look in Guwen's eyes. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 670. Substitute the 3,000 great worlds will be destroyed? Guwen was also surprised to hear this. In his view, although the immortal gods were tyrannical and saw all living beings as nothing, they would still adhere to the so-called celestial rules, even if it meant destroying the world. They needed just cause. The celestial court indeed had the power to annihilate the 3,000 great worlds in an instant, but wouldn't doing so violate the celestial rules? Sir, the Oval Fire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guwen suddenly felt that the so-called celestial rules were quite flexible. When it involved the highest authority, the rules were just child's play. "What do you think we should do?" The celestial spirit god looked at Guwen and asked seriously. The celestial gods guarding the Great Thousand World had begun to take action, seeking a way out. To them, the Great Thousand World represented divine authority. If the Great Thousand World were lost, their positions would be destabilized, and their cultivation would suffer backlash. The celestial gods see all living beings as ants, just as the supreme beings of the celestial court see the celestial gods as ants. Guwen stopped walking, glanced at a few spirit beasts squatting in front of a street stall, and replied, "Let things take their natural course. Before anything happens, the only thing you can do is cultivate diligently." The celestial spirit god had no choice but to give up after hearing this. Thinking about Guwen's unfathomable cultivation level, he felt that when the catastrophe of the fight for the celestial emperor broke out in the celestial spirit great world, his predicament might not be as difficult as it seemed now. He then continued to recount his experiences from a recent journey, and Guwen listened attentively. Their conversation was only audible to them, and even while walking down a busy street, they didn't attract any attention. After spending half a day exploring the Xianxia sect, the celestial spirit god returned through the world gate. Guwen continued to wander around the city. With the joining of 20 geniuses from the undefeated emperor clan, the Xianxia sect was thriving, reaching an unprecedented period of prosperity. The top genius Yuan Luo continuously enhanced its reputation outside, attracting more people to come and seek guidance. At dusk, Guwen carried a wine gourd in his hand. He stopped, drinking while watching the commotion. The disciples on the street were observing a conflict between two young male disciples. One of them, once a genius, had been crippled during training outside and was now enduring humiliation from the other disciple. The other disciple was a descendant of an elder within the sect, which meant no one dared to step forward to intervene. Guwen had no intention of getting involved. Watching the scene unfold, he reflected deeply. For the disciples of the Xianxia sect, the sect represented the whole martial world. For the people of the world, the heavens were vast and boundless, unaware that the Great Thousand World was as insignificant as dust to certain beings. Guwen pondered the path he wanted to take and what rules he should follow. He believed he could find his true self amidst the turmoil, for he had risen from the depths. Time ebbed away, and 400 years passed. In a valley, he, dressed in black, stood on the surface of the lake, holding a long sword with its blade horizontal in front of her as she closed her eyes. Guwen lay on the grass by the lake, holding the seven-star mirror, peering into the scenes of the human world within the Taiwei Great World. The Divine Court Crown Prince was but a microcosm. There were many people in the world who wanted to resist the Divine Court and that immortal god. The Divine Court Crown Prince was also persuaded, and these people had already formed a faction. Although lacking the power of the Divine Court, they could only remain hidden. Whenever someone was taken to become a divine disciple, these individuals would appear, seeking to win over the offspring or siblings of the divine disciples using hatred. But Guwen saw the leader of this faction secretly kneeling before the ruler of the Divine Court. It was all a ploy. The Divine Court's control over the Taiwei Great World was too deep, and for this great thousand world to overthrow their rule was extremely difficult. However, as Guwen taught Zhu Shi to cultivate, he saw a variable. Zhu Shi would stand in opposition to the Divine Court. Once she could deal with that immortal god, she could replace the Divine Court. Boom! A vast sword intent blew from the lake surface, causing a gust of wind that stirred the flowers and grass, creating a green wave around Guwen. Guwen slowly sat up and tucked the seven-star mirror into his arms, turning his gaze to Zhu Shi on the lake. Zhu Shi still held her sword. Her sword intent materialized into thousands of silver stars floating above the lake, creating a beautiful and fantastical scene. Her dress billowed, and her long hair flowed, exuding an otherworldly aura. Finally entered the Tao, did you? This speed truly deserves the saint heavenly aptitude. Guwen thought to himself silently. Zhu Zai's previous life was as Xianxia, unrivaled and symbolic of the strongest talent in one great thousand world. The sword intent Zhu Shi comprehended was precisely the Sacred Heart Sword Tao. The Sacred Heart Sword Tao was created by his reincarnation body, Xianxia, depending on the river of Sword Tao, needing no lifespan to transform and improve. The Sacred Heart Sword Tao continued to grow stronger. Aside from mastering the Sacred Heart Sword Tao, Guwen had used his Tao intent over the years to assist Zhu Shi in her cultivation, allowing her to gain many insights and creative ideas. She might be able to develop a different Sacred Heart Sword Tao. Zhu Shi opened her eyes, her gaze sharp, as if two sword beams shot out from them. She slowly raised her head. She could already feel the Sacred Heart Sword Tao guiding her from an unfathomable distance. The feeling was subtle, allowing her to even harness the power of the Sacred Heart Sword Tao. Turning to look at Guwen in the distance, she flickered and appeared before him out of thin air, bowing and saying, "Senior, I have barely entered the Tao." Guwen stood and looked at her, smiling. "Since that's the case, we should part ways. Do you want to stay in the Taiwei Great World, or go elsewhere? I can help you one more time." Zhu Shi was surprised, not expecting Guwen to leave today, but she was too embarrassed to ask him to stay, so she replied, "I wish to stay." "Then be sure of your decision, for I won't be there to help you later. This great thousand world is brewing a terrible disaster. Even if you cultivate for millions of years, changing fate will be difficult." Guwen said seriously. Zhu Shi took a deep breath and said, "I've long made up my mind. This great thousand world has a richer spiritual energy and great Tao compared to others I've visited, and there are internal issues within the ruling power. There's room for me to grow here and I want to stay. Perhaps I can achieve something great." Guwen smiled and said no more, turning to leave. Zhu Shi watched his back and suddenly knelt, gritting her teeth, saying, "Thank you, Master, for your love. I've never been filial to you, but one day, I'll stand proudly before you and make you proud of me." Guwen didn't pause or look back, his figure vanishing. Zhu Shi couldn't sense any trace of Guwen, feeling hollow inside. After all these years together, she finally realized that this Meng Lang was indeed her master in the celestial spirit great world, Guwen, known as the supporting Tao Sword Venerable. However, she couldn't tell if the master came for her or just happened to pass by this world. She thought it was likely just passing by, which showed how uncommon this great thousand world was. Immortal gods. Zhu Zai's eyes flickered, her gaze revealed ambition, giving her a majestic and oppressive aura. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 671. The Fickle Heart of the World Sarch *, the novel, IR. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. After parting with Zhu Shi, Gu An's life once again fell into tranquility. He delved into creating a Dao, but this path was exceedingly arduous, always causing this Dao extreme Daluo Immortal to rack his brains. Time flew by swiftly. Another 100,000 years passed by. In this year, the Taiqian dynasty launched a surprise attack on the Dao court, igniting the flames of war in the human world. In the Tai Tsang dynasty, within the imperial garden of the palace. While pouring wine for Guwen, Li Xiandao lamented that Taiqian is truly formidable, daring to launch an attack on the Dao court. Whether successful or not, the courage of Taiqian's son of heaven is enough to command my admiration. Taiqian is the strongest dynasty in the world. Although the Tai Tsang dynasty has not been annexed by it, they can still feel its tiger-like might. If it weren't for the feud between Taiqian and the Dao court, Li Xiandao believed Taiqian would eventually march towards the Tai Tsang continent. Guwen toyed with the jade statue gifted by Li Xiandao, smiling as he said, "What, does your majesty also wish to emulate Taiqian?" He had once visited Taiqian for leisure, and from top to bottom, Taiqian was infused with a belligerent spirit. The reason for waging war against the Dao court was not due to any grudges but was a means to achieve a dominion through borrowed animosity. Behind Taiqian stood numerous powerful sects, which was the source of their confidence. In the coming years, both sides would engage in fierce battles for thousands of years, turning the world dim and chaotic until Zhao Rushan led the Dao court to suppress Taiqian, ascending to the seat of the master of the Dao court. Thus, the primordial era came to an end. Following this began what would be known as the Ancient Era, a period far more prolonged than the Primordial Era. The final battle of the Ancient Era would plunge the human world into desolation, ushering in the Ancient Period. Gu N's gaze could see far into the distant epochs, even glimpsing the Tianyuan period from which Ji came. However, the future Tianyuan period was already vastly different from the Tianyuan period of Jis origin. Yet Ji was bound to be born. If he didn't exist, the memories he imparted to Gu In would be illusory. To say I don't wish to emulate is false. As an emperor, who doesn't want to unite the world? But the Dao court is too strong, and without certainty of victory, I won't lead the people of Tai Tsang to their deaths. Li Xiandao shook his head and said. Currently, he had reached the cultivation level of a carefree primordial immortal. Although he couldn't compare to the disciples of Wuxia in terms of training speed, he was still considered fast in the world. The two talked about worldly matters, occasionally mentioning Li Ye, Yang Jian, Long Teng, and others. Nowadays, the person Li Xiandao valued most wasn't Yang Jian or the prince, but Long Teng. As the son of Long Qing, and now the patriarch of the Long family, Long Teng had grown up, his cultivation reaching the realm of a divine immortal of wondrous dharma. He symbolized the highest talent of the Tai Tsang dynasty and was a world-renowned peerless prodigy. Li Xiandao curiously asked, "By the way, I've always wanted to ask, Long Teng's cultivation speed is getting faster and faster. Even Yang Jian is amazed. Is it you secretly nurturing him behind the scenes?" A divine immortal of wondrous dharma, being the 6th level of the immortal Dao, can roam the outer heaven. Reaching the realm of a divine immortal of wondrous dharma before 1,000,000 years old is a once-in-billion talent. Guwen raised his wine cup, smiling, "See through it but don't reveal it." He did indeed quite like Long Teng. Often, he would transform into someone else to be near Long Teng. For Long Teng to have reached today was largely thanks to his Dao intent. When Long Teng cultivated, his Dao intent would envelop him, aiding in his enlightenment. Regarding this, Long Teng was still unaware. In fact, though Gu An's Dao intent could assist others, it was more about giving them a gentle push. If Long Teng had extremely mediocre comprehension, even if he used Dao intent daily to assist, he wouldn't have nurtured him to his current achievements. Li Xiandao, upon hearing this, grew even happier and started inviting for more wine. The two drank for a full 2 hours before Guwen finally took his leave. Watching Gu N's departing figure, Li Xiandao couldn't help but ask, "Guwen, How much longer can such days last? 100,000 years to him was extremely long, especially since he was an emperor, facing far more partings than ordinary people. He had even seen off many descendants, with the court's ministers changing batch after batch. Only when facing Gu and would his heart calm down, feeling that some things could not be erased by time. The most heartless place is the house of royalty, and Li Xiandao had thoroughly become a lonely soul. Gu En raised the jade statue in his hand, saying, "Until you grow weary of it." Watching him suddenly disappear, Li Xiandao couldn't help but shake his head and smile, softly murmuring to himself, "How could I ever grow weary?" His expression gradually became complex. He didn't stand up, continuing to sit at the wine table, lost in thought. After leaving the Taizong dynasty, Gu En appeared above the sea of clouds, strolling forward. The human heart is ever-changing ultimately. Gu En sighed. As for Li Xuando's life, he did not wish to interfere too much. Li Xiandao had been emperor for too long. When the expansion of the Taizong dynasty halted, internal conflicts would break out. He had once executed rebellious royal family members, which increasingly distanced him from the royal family. Meanwhile, Li Ya and Li Lingtian had long roamed the world, never returning. When Gu En didn't find him, he would always stay in the bedchamber or the imperial study, either cultivating or reading. Not only Li Xiandao, but other old friends also faced life's predicaments, which were more mental than situational. The path of immortal cultivation is long. When one cannot break through year after year, the fighting spirit weakens, and the thoughts become chaotic. Ambitions and emotions intertwined were as complex and uncontrollable as hearts in the mortal world. Even for them, Gu En occasionally felt restless, particularly when his path of creating a Dao was not going smoothly. For this reason, Gu En liked to travel across the world, visiting major sects and imperial dynasties. The diverse beings always helped to quickly calm his Dao heart. The reason for finding Li Xiandao to drink today was because his path of creating a Dao finally showed progress, and he was in high spirits, seeking a friend to drink with. Li Ya was busy with carefree vendettas, making it difficult for Gu En to find him, so he could only find his father. When Gu En met Li Xiandao, he was still very weak. Thus, when he saw Li Xiandao, he could remember the lost feeling of weakness, a sentiment that couldn't be provided by friends made after becoming strong. Soon, Gu En disappeared above the sea of clouds. He arrived at Xiao Lan's grotto heaven, switching with his avatar. Xiao Lan was about to emerge from seclusion. Since returning from the path of the Great Tao, her cultivation growth had slowed. Even after being in seclusion for 100,000 years, there was no hope of a breakthrough, which made her heart quite agitated. "Brother Gu!" The voice arrived before the person. Gu En, who was admiring the flowers and grass, was about to turn when Xiao Lan pounced on him. Xiao Lan, without a word, attempted to kiss him and strip his clothes. Although only the two of them were in the grotto heaven, such roughness was unprecedented for Gu En. Several days later, Xiao Lan stood up from the grass, tidied her clothes, looked into the distance, and sighed, "Brother Gu, I suddenly feel I'm not a true genius, as I'm starting to encounter bottlenecks too." Gu En stood up with her, gazing at her profile, and asked, "How about we spar a bit?" Xiao Lan turned to look at him, and slightly shook her head. "Brother Gu, I don't need to regain confidence by defeating you. Even if I beat you many times, my Dao practice would not grow because of it," Xiao Lan said, a nostalgic look crossing her face. If battling powerful enemies on the path of the Great Dao, when the fight ended, the Dao spiritual qi would surge in her, allowing her to rapidly increase her cultivation level in a short time. That feeling was truly wonderful, and she still yearned for it. "Who said I want to lose to you?" Gu En's voice interrupted Xiao Lan's thoughts, causing her to meet his gaze. Xiao Lan was stunned. It was the first time she had seen Gu En's expression so serious. She pouted slightly. "What? Do you want me to go easy on you?" Gu En stared at her, whispering, "Even if you give it your all, you can't possibly beat me. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 672 Primordial Dao Emperor. Seeing that Gu En didn't seem to be joking, Xiao Lan felt puzzled, but she had her own pride and didn't want to concede just yet. Sar the novel, F.I.R. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Then let's do it. Xiao Lan raised her hand and beckoned to Guwen with the demeanor of a master. The corners of Guwen's mouth turned up. With a gentle shift of his right foot, the entire world suddenly changed. The celestial vault turned dim, the flowers and grass on the ground vanished, and an endless wilderness appeared beneath their feet. This sudden change in environment caused Xiao Lan's face to change drastically. She looked around, feeling that everything around her didn't seem like an illusion. What is going on? She turned to look at Guwen and cautiously asked, "Are you really my brother, Gu?" Guwen laughed. "Laner, think carefully. Are you really sure about my origins? Since you became sensible, I have been at the Xiao Manor. Before coming to the Xiao Manor, did you know who I was? Who are you?" As she listened to Guwen, the uneasiness in Xiao Lan's heart disappeared. As long as Guwen was still him, she wouldn't be afraid. Guwen drew out the Xianxia sword, gripping the sword scabbard, and said, "First show me your full strength." A gleam flashed in Xiao Lan's eyes, and her figure flickered. Boom! Xiao Lan appeared out of thin air in front of Guwen, holding the white spirit sword. The sword's tip was only 10 centimeters from Guwen's shoulder. The ground beneath them shattered, countless debris flew up, as if the world couldn't withstand the pressure and was collapsing. Yet, this mere 10 centimeters, Xiao Lan was unable to advance any further. Her pupils suddenly dilated, not expecting Guwen to be so formidable. Guwen, holding the sword scabbard of the Xianxia sword, pushed forward. Xiao Lan felt an overwhelming force like a tidal wave crush towards her, and she uncontrollably was pushed far away, disappearing at the world's end like a sharp arrow. Along the way, Xiao Lan shattered dozens of massive mountains, leaving a long trail of dust and rock floating in the air, an especially magnificent sight. Xiao Lan quickly emerged from the swirling dust, not looking the least bit disheveled. Around her was visible chi force, her eyes filled with fear as she looked in Guyen's direction. At that moment, she had a terrifying feeling as if facing death. The earth and mountains quaked violently, raising a dust storm that covered the sky. Amidst the vast dust waves was a figure rapidly ascending, unmistakably Guwen. Xiao Lan could feel Guwen's gaze. She no longer cared why Guwen was so powerful. She immediately raised her sword, and soared intense sword to the sky, sword shadows appearing around her, rapidly increasing and expanding their range. In the blink of an eye, the sword shadows covered thousands of miles around. An endless sea of sword shadows rose along with Xiao Lan's sword, resembling a cluster of stars heading toward the cosmos. The sword chi formed tails like the rise of auroras, splendid to the extreme. Xiao Lan swung her sword at Guwen, and the sword shadows from all directions followed suit. Every sword shadow unleashed sword chi that shook heaven and earth, unstoppable. The ground trembled, the celestial vault ripped apart. In this overwhelming sword chi, everything appeared fragile. Guwen did not use any divine skills. He flew straight toward Xiao Lan. Speed increased dramatically, like a bolt of lightning, tearing through the sea of sword chi between heaven and earth, making it seem as though the celestial vault was split in two. Clang! Xiao Lan's white spirit sword blocked Guwen's sword scabbard, and at that moment, she felt her chi blood surging, extremely uncomfortable. She looked at Guwen and found his expression so indifferent, his eyes devoid of any emotion. Such an expression deeply provoked Xiao Lan. She leapt, disappearing in front of Guwen, and reappeared behind him. Xiao Lan summoned 72 large flags, quickly surrounding Guwen. Almost instantly, a formation was set, and thousands of thunders erupted, intertwining around Guwen. Guwen slowly turned around, and as soon as the lightning was about to touch him, it vanished directly, creating an unapproachable area around him. Xiao Lan's expression changed slightly. She stored the white spirit sword into her storage pouch and cast spells with both hands. The lightning changed color, transforming into purple thunder like dragons or snakes, crazily attacking Guwen. The formation's light also surged, illuminating the entire world. "Is this all you can do?" Guwen's voice echoed, causing the fighting spirit in Xiao Lan's eyes to surge. Boom! 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 The world roared, the land continuously shattered, rocks soaring into the sky, and the dim celestial vault began to warp, seemingly unable to bear such a massive battle. An hour later, amidst the ruins, Xiao Lan half knelt on a large rock, one hand gripping the white spirit sword to support her body. Her hair was disheveled, her robes torn and dirty, looking extremely bedraggled. She struggled to lift her eyes and saw Guwen descending from the sky, hovering in front of her. In comparison, Guwen seemed untouched by the battle. There wasn't a speck of dust on him, nor any sweat or bloodstains on his face. "How is my strength?" Guwen asked. Xiao Lan pouted, "Very strong, I can't beat you." After the shock, she felt somewhat aggrieved. A few days ago, everything was so sweet, yet today he was so stern. Guwen smiled and said, "As long as you can defeat me, you can become a Taoist emperor. I can teach you cultivation." Upon hearing this, Xiao Lan looked at him, struggled to stand up, and asked, "Have you been to the path of the great Tao?" "I've been there." "Then why did you pretend to be so curious when I talked to you about the path of the great Tao before?" Xiao Lan said with a grievance, feeling as if she'd been toyed with. Guwen said, "I went there in a past life. Everyone has their past life, you do too. If you wish, I can help you restore your past life memories now." Xiao Lan furrowed her brows and asked, "What realm are you exactly? Why are you hiding your cultivation level? Are you?" She wanted to ask if Guwen was sincere with her, but felt it was a question she couldn't voice. Guwen smiled, "I can't tell you my realm for now. When you exceed me, you'll know. As for hiding my cultivation level, it's because I don't want to cause trouble. I like peace and quiet. You should understand my nature. As for whether I'm sincere with you, you needn't doubt it. When I went to Xiao Manor back then, it was for you." Xiao Lan furrowed her brows even more. She was no longer the innocent girl she once was. She only appeared naive in front of Guwen. "Is it because of my past life?" Xiao Lan asked. Guwen nodded. Xiao Lan fell silent. Hearing her inner voice, Guwen said comfortingly, "Regardless of past or present life, you are you, only with different memories. If I cared only about your past self, I would have restored your memories long ago." Xiao Lan took a deep breath and asked, "Can you help me become a Taoist emperor?" Guwen landed in front of her and answered, "I can, but I can also guide you on another path, one not inferior to becoming a Taoist emperor." "What path?" "Primordial Tao Emperor." Xiao Lan's expression changed. She hadn't heard of this title, but just from the name, it seemed extraordinary. She couldn't help but ask, "Is the Primordial Tao Emperor also a level of destiny?" Guwen smiled. "That's right, the path to becoming a Primordial Tao Emperor is different from the Emperor Road. It is not through killing, but through comprehension. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 673, The Legend of the Emperor of Eternal Life. If I become the Primordial Tao Emperor, can I defeat the Taoist Emperor? Xiao Lan asked the question she was most concerned about. In the years of roaming on the path of the Great Tao, she had witnessed too many prodigies, all of whom were merely competitors of the Taoist Emperor. She couldn't imagine how truly powerful the Taoist Emperor was. Guwen replied, "Whether it's the Taoist Emperor or the Primordial Tao Emperor, it's just a boost of destiny. None is absolutely stronger, but becoming the Primordial Tao Emperor, your future will be limitless." This wasn't just idle talk from him. The Primordial Tao Emperor was a path he had forged, and he could use his power to grow infinitely stronger. Sooner or later, the Primordial Tao Emperor would surpass the Taoist Emperor. Becoming the Primordial Tao Emperor would not only evoke Gu'an's power of the Great Tao but also allow enlightenment in Gu'an's Tao. The name Primordial was derived from Gu in being the primordial Tao creation body. The title of Tao Emperor was simply meant to match the prestige of an emperor. He was inspired by Ji Xiaoyu's title of Reincarnation Tao Emperor. One day, he would make the Primordial Tao Emperor a more formidable existence than the Taoist Emperor. Not only his disciples could become the Primordial Tao Emperor. Of course, that was a far-off future, as his creation of the primordial Tao Emperor was still ongoing. Currently, it was just in the first stage, which could attract people to the Tao. Xiao Lan pondered for a moment and said, "Anyway, you won't harm me. I'm willing to become the primordial Tao Emperor. Teach me." Guan smiled, waved his right hand, and Xiao Lan's injuries instantly healed. Her mana was restored to a full state, and the entire dim world suddenly transformed back into the appearance of a grotto heaven. This scene made Xiao Lan's eyelid twitch, and she couldn't help but ask, was it an illusion realm just now? No, it was the real world created by me. Guan's answer made Xiao Lan secretly alarmed. What level of realm was required to achieve such a degree? Sit down. Guan lifted his robe and sat down, gesturing for Xiao Lan to sit as well. Once Xiao Lan sat down, Guan began to teach directly. Sur the Navire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The Taoist Emperor requires fighting and devouring great Tao destinies on the Emperor Road of the Great Tao. The final victor can become the Taoist Emperor. For the primordial Tao Emperor to rival the Taoist Emperor, it must also have an accumulation process. Guan did not intend to let the Tao seekers slaughter each other like raising poisonous creatures. He thought of his lifespan holograms, lifespan reincarnation, and the innate reincarnation skill. He planned to have the cultivators pursuing the primordial Tao Emperor gain enlightenment in reincarnation, not a personal reincarnation, but a projection of will into reincarnation. It would exist in reality but would ultimately be annihilated. It wouldn't disturb the great Tao but could absorb its true essence. With this direction, he could better perfect it going forward. Xiao Lan soon became engrossed in Guan's teachings. The grotto heaven remained calm, with a serene beauty undisturbed by time. In the misty Immortal court, within a vast golden hall, hundreds of youthful cultivators gathered, and Tianhao was among them. Many surrounded him, chatting, resembling stars arching around the moon. I finally got the qualification to compete for the Taoist Emperor. In a million years, it'll be our turn. Time is pressing. Tianhao is truly remarkable. He hasn't even surpassed attaining the free immortal of Taoist song, yet he has the qualification to compete for the Taoist Emperor. I heard that the ancestor values him highly. Don't be overly joyful. The road to the Taoist Emperor is arduous. We might end up killing each other. The disciples of the misty Immortal court in the hall discussed matters of the Taoist Emperor. Tianhao remained silent, recalling the words of the elder who announced the Taoist Emperor matter. He always felt that the elder was watching him with ill intent. Although he had integrated into the misty Immortal court, he wasn't born there, so he always had a barrier in his heart, preventing him from fully trusting anyone. Speaking of the Taoist Emperor, our misty Immortal court has produced many Taoist emperors throughout history. Do you know which Taoist emperor had the highest talent? The words of a young man in blue clothes caught the attention of many, prompting Tianhao to turn his head. The blue-clothed man reveled in the attention. He cleared his throat and said, "Naturally, it's the Emperor of Eternal Life from Jinlan Immortal Mansion." Born with the Immortal Emperor's eye, he shocked the entire Immortal court. Perhaps unmatched talent brings misfortune. Heaven is fair, so evil exists to covet his Immortal Emperor's eye. Breaking into the misty Immortal court, it cost his parents' lives. To protect him, the misty Immortal court sent him to Ling Mountain. The Emperor of Eternal Life inherited the true teachings of Ling Mountain and was the heavenly Buddha ancestor's direct disciple. He was unbeatable once he embarked on the path of the Great Tao, becoming the Taoist Emperor in an incredibly short time. The Emperor of Eternal Life. The Immortal Emperor's Eye. Tianhao had heard of this name, said to be a supreme genius from long ago. He had heard several seniors use the Emperor of Eternal Life to pressure talented disciples. However, when asking about more deeds of the Emperor of Eternal Life, they were warned not to inquire too much. The Emperor of Eternal Life seemed to be a taboo within the misty Immortal court. Why did such a powerful Emperor of Eternal Life die? Someone asked, puzzled. The blue-clothed man mysteriously said, he didn't die from being killed. Even legendary immortal gods couldn't do anything to him. He entered the river of cause and effect for his beloved. Whether he truly perished remains unknown. In fact, many ancestors within the court anticipate his return. It's said that Ling Mountain occasionally sends disciples to the river of cause and effect for training, likely orchestrated by the heavenly Buddha ancestor. The Emperor of Eternal Life was the heavenly Buddha ancestor's most cherished disciple. The heavenly Buddha ancestor, being a supreme presence beyond the great thousand world, still longs for the Emperor of Eternal Life. Imagine his extraordinary talent? At these words, the surrounding disciples nodded in agreement, beginning to fantasize about the Emperor of Eternal Life. Even Xianxia couldn't help but wonder about the elegance of the Emperor of Eternal Life. "Wait, how do you know so much?" a female disciple suddenly asked, prompting everyone to look at the blue-clothed man with odd expressions. Those who knew the blue-clothed man felt even more puzzled. The blue-clothed man maintained a smile, though it became increasingly eerie. "Because I've met him and assisted him," the blue-clothed man said proudly, making those around him have even stranger expressions. Xianxia sensed something and frowned, silently retreating. Suddenly, the blue-clothed man exploded into a black mist, quickly spreading out, causing surrounding disciples to retreat while holding their magic artifacts defensively. "Little ones, I am the profound demon emperor under the Emperor of Eternal Life. I am also a Taoist emperor. Today, only one among you can survive, and the survivor will have the qualification to compete for the Taoist emperor." The voice of the blue-clothed man resounded, but his tone turned chilling. Rumble, the entire palace began to tremble, and Xianxia's expression changed dramatically as he felt an overwhelming suppression from outside the hall. They had no way to escape. What was going on? Was it an enemy invasion or an arrangement by the misty Immortal court? Xianxia took out his 3 Dao treasures and watched the black mist vigilantly, faintly catching the silhouette of someone walking within it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 674, Projecting the Path of Creation, Profound Demon Emperor. In the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guan, lying under a tree reading, murmured this name. Having inherited the memories of the Emperor of Eternal Life, he naturally remembered the Profound Demon Emperor. The Profound Demon Emperor was the most capable underling of the Emperor of Eternal Life, helping him to manage the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect and search for Fairy Yaoxian. However, ever since the Emperor of Eternal Life ignored the Profound Demon Emperor's obstruction, insisted on leaving the Stealing Heaven Immortal sect to find Fairy Yaoxian, and even injured the Profound Demon Emperor, the two bid farewell forever. Unexpectedly, after so many years, the Profound Demon Emperor was still alive. He calculated that the Profound Demon Emperor was invited by the misty Immortal court to create crises for this group of talents, forcing them to fight each other, only for the misty Immortal court to step in and chase him away. The misty Immortal court is not an evil sect. Letting disciples kill each other is unacceptable, as these disciples come from different immortal mansions, and their kin are within the court. If they engage in mutual slaughter, a storm will surely arise, potentially bringing about power shifts. Guan couldn't help but sigh. Indeed, darkness exists everywhere. With Tianhao's current ability, even with the reliance on a Dao treasure, it would be difficult to survive till the end. The talents within that palace are not weak. The disciples of the misty Immortal court did not listen to the words of the Profound Demon Emperor but instead began to jointly attack him. The Profound Demon Emperor's cultivation level had reached the heaven-opening Daluo Immortal realm, which this group of talents could not contend with. Soon, all the talented disciples were suppressed. The Profound Demon Emperor unleashed his divine skills, isolating time and space, so even if 1,000 or 10,000 years passed here, only a few breaths' time would pass outside, plunging the disciples of the misty Immortal court into despair. Eventually, someone couldn't contain themselves and began attacking their fellow disciples. Once someone took the lead, the slaughter naturally erupted. Tianhao did not actively participate in the slaughter, carefully avoiding other disciples, yet someone still sought him out. The misty Immortal court seemed to receive some kind of stimulus, intensifying the cultivation of its disciples, wishing to nurture combat power more swiftly. The reason behind this, Guwen couldn't compute. If there's something he couldn't calculate, 9 out of 10 times it relates to the Celestial Court. Though the misty Immortal Court isn't within the Great Thousand World, it's reasonable to speculate that it got involved due to the Celestial Emperor's struggle within the Celestial Court, as many immortal gods have emerged from the court. Guwen had no intention of interfering. Though Tianhao wasn't the strongest, he was destined to survive. Because Tianhao was a reincarnation of the Son of Heaven, those of great power in the misty Immortal Court would remind the profound Demon Emperor. Indeed, as Tianhao was severely injured, the profound Demon Emperor intervened to send him away. This great battle persisted within the divine power illusion realm for quite some time, yet in reality, it was but an instant. Seeing Tianhao unharmed, Guwen then withdrew his gaze. He was not only reading but also condensing the fortune of the primordial Tao Emperor. To have the primordial Tao Emperor exist, one must create a truly existent fortune that cultivators could obtain and control. For this, he projected his lifespan 5 times to comprehend the path of Qi fortune. Sir the Nelfire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Every projection of his lifespan would manifest his reincarnation body in the celestial spirit great world. Fortunately, these reincarnation bodies didn't leave a renowned legacy, but became a psychological shadow of defeat for some of the absolute geniuses of the era, unforgettable for all eternity. Each lifespan projection required millions of years, and after using it 5 times, Guwen's path of Qi fortune stepped into a brand new realm. Sure enough, things are easier with cheats. Guwen thought to himself, after 5 lifespan projections, condensing the fortune of the primordial Tao Emperor was no longer difficult. This process not only advanced the cultivation of the primordial Tao Emperor, but also saw a growth in his own cultivation level. Guwen continued to indulge in books and immerse himself in creating fortune. It wasn't until dusk fell that he stood up. He walked toward the peak where he lived, lifting his right hand. Streams of air circled his palm, supported by the wind, resembling water currents with a fiery sway. This was the fortune of the primordial Tao Emperor. Seemingly gentle, but actually imbued with the fierce strength of the path of power. Guwen pondered repeatedly and decided to embed the characteristic of fierceness into the primordial Tao Emperor. The primordial Tao Emperor, renowned for mighty power. Just thinking about it was exhilarating. With a foundation of greater strength, the primordial Tao Emperor, cultivating different great Taos, could achieve various creations and directions. By the time Guwen reached his courtyard, the fortune of the primordial Tao Emperor in his hand was solid, twisting like a dragon or serpent. Shenzhen, sitting in meditation in front of the artifact refining cauldron, turned to look. Guwen then dispersed the fortune in his hand. "What was that thing in your hand just now?" Shenzhen curiously asked. Guwen smiled. "Just a little spell. You've been sitting here for 1,000 years, aren't you going out for a walk?" He deliberately leaked a trace of the primordial Tao Emperor's aura to Shenzhen, intending to lead her into the path in the future. Lately, Shenzhen encountered a bottleneck in comprehending the path of cause and effect, not even venturing into the mountains and rivers, but sitting in meditation in front of the artifact refining cauldron all day. She chose to sit here because there was a Tao treasure containing the path of cause and effect within the artifact refining cauldron. Don't tell me that appropriate relaxation aids enlightenment. I don't believe it anymore. Shenzhen glared at Guwen, puffing her cheeks as she spoke. Guwen indeed didn't dare say such things again. Having met with a bottleneck when creating the Tao before, the discomfort was indeed unbearable, thus he chose to open up a little. After chatting for a while, Guwen returned to his house alone. Next, he prepared to contemplate where to place the path of proving the Tao for the primordial Tao Emperor. One couldn't always require coming before him to become the primordial Tao Emperor, that would limit its development too much. The Taoist Emperor placing the Emperor Road on the path of the Great Tao was a fine guide. The path of the Great Tao, being the convergence point of the 3,000 Great Taos, had no rules, not even the Celestial Court couldn't control it, granting cultivators more freedom. He could also position the path of proving the Tao for the primordial Tao Emperor on the path of the Great Tao. Let's call it the Primordial Emperor Road. adding 2 more words to Emperor Road, making it more appealing. Guwen didn't act immediately, choosing to continue projecting his lifespan. This time, he intended to enhance the great Tao of creation, to turn what shouldn't exist into reality and have it exist for a long time. The great Tao of creation was most crucial. No creation could be done without the great Tao of creation. Once again projecting toward the 3,000 great worlds, Guwen was already experienced, uninterested in the process, only waiting for the result. Snowflakes flew, covering the vast mountains and rivers of the Qianquan sect. In a great hall, Xianxia, Lin Chen, and other high-ranking leaders of the Qianquan sect surrounded a remarkably handsome yellow-robed disciple. This person was Yuan Luo, the reincarnation of Chaos Grudge Luo. Today, Yuan Luo had proven himself as the world's foremost genius, also the pride of the Qianquan sect. Did you gain anything from this visit to the Zhongming Profound Sea? Xianxia asked with a stroked beard and a kind face. Having watched Yuan Luo grow up, Xianxia felt Yuan Luo was his greatest pride in life. As for Tian Hao, he was, after all, from the beginningless, while Yuan Luo was entirely cultivated by the Qianquan sect, unrelated to the beginningless. The others also smiled approvingly at Yuan Luo, becoming more and more satisfied with him. Hearing the hierarch's inquiry, Yuan Luo's face turned grim, and he said through gritted teeth, "I was defeated by someone whose cultivation wasn't even higher than mine." The hall fell silent with this statement. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible.